Hello, everyone. I, Jonathan Bissonnette, will be starting my own podcast. In this podcast, I will be having guests over for my own choosing, and these guests will be knowledgeable about a certain topic, whether that be science, history, anything I deem really interesting and that I want to learn more about. During these conversations, we will also be playing chess. This brings in another difficulty factor into the podcast because we'll be simultaneously talking, which is paying attention to the guest and the host, and also playing. So there's two things that we gotta pay attention to, which brings in a very difficult dichotomy. But it's very enjoyable, and I really hope that you guys enjoy it too. And I wanna hear some feedback from anyone who may be listening. I don't expect many people to be listening. I'm doing it purely for the fun and sake of playing chess and to have really wildly fun conversations and extract new ideas between two people. I really hope you guys enjoyed that episode, and I will see you guys in the outro. Thank you, and enjoy. To everyone who may be watching or listening, I would like to welcome my guest, who is one of my very close friends, Shaila Saifee, for joining me today to talk about her involvement and passion in learning about cellular molecular biology as her major at Northeastern University and her work related to her NASA internship during the summer. How about you introduce yourself real quick?
Can I first say that you're the only person that I know that actually has my major memorized? No one in my family does.
It was actually kind of difficult too. I was thinking about it. I was like, I know you told me, and I do not want to ask you again.
Not a single person that I know could tell me my major.
Someone
that's really cool. So my name is Shaila. I am a cellular molecular major. On campus, I do microbiology. I've done some work in chemical engineering, and currently I'm working for NASA with their Ocean Worlds lab, but outside of science, I am a mushroom enthusiast. I enjoy cooking. I enjoy cooking mushrooms, and that's basically all of my personality.
All right, well, that's enough introduction. Let us now begin with a fun discussion, and let us begin our chess game at the moment. I will be playing as white, and she will be playing as black. So, first thing, I'll move my piece. Go ahead. Tell me the beginning of your passion for chemistry and biology. Was there a sudden spark of passion, or had this passion been incrementally growing since learning these topics during primary or high school?
That's what I've honestly spent a lot of this year thinking about, because I know that freshman year, I hated biology. Because you know how you could take honors or CP? I remember getting into a very long-term fight with my mom, because I had taken honors biology and I wanted to drop so badly. And she was just just stick it out for nuts. She was like, just stick it out for a year. You can drop into CP Chem next year, but for at least for now, you committed to you committed to honors biology, so just take that. And I just refused. It was mainly because I wanted to join the ski team, which is a whole other can of worms. But I hated it. And then somehow by the end of the year, it was my favorite subject. I don't remember when in that year it became my favorite subject. It might have had to do with us switching teachers at some point, but it just was. And by the end of freshman year, I didn't know that I wanted it to be a career, but I knew that biology is my thing. That's what I'm going to do, at least for a long time. Was there anyone specifically during high school that influenced you, or any role models outside of high school? I want to say Miss Eck. We started with Mr. Price, who was lovely. He was a great teacher. I just hated biology with him. Miss Eck had a pregnancy, and so Mr. Price was our sub for the first half of the year. Not a tangent. Yeah. Not that interesting. So I want to say it was probably Miss Eck, because by the time I had her as a teacher, I liked biology. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't remember anything that was okay.
What about chemistry in high school?
I hated my chemistry teachers with a passion.
Who was the teacher?
Dr. Pernia for sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't want to say I hated Mr. Amendola. Actually, hate is a strong word entirely. I did not like Dr. Pernia as a teacher. I did not think he was a good teacher. Mr. Amendola was okay. The problem with the AP chemistry was that you had to know chemistry. You couldn't go into it assuming that you were going to learn chemistry there.
Did you not take honors chemistry?
I did, but I didn't learn. I just memorized enough to pass the class.
That sucks because I had Dr. Tom. He was a great teacher.
I've heard so many great things about Dr. Tom. But
he loves my banter. We had some good banter together.
Basically, like, I wish I had some cute origin story of like, this teacher just really instilled a love for science in me. And I don't want to, like, take anything away from those teachers. Like, they were great teachers, and I hope that they're doing well. But it wasn't really that. I just, like, something about it was fun. Something about biology by the end of the year was fun that it made me... I didn't like chemistry until this year, probably, this past year.
Chemistry? What got you into chemistry then?
The job that I worked last year. So Northeastern has the co-op program. Yeah. So for 6 months, you work. And I was applying for my first one during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I applied to...
This was like the beginning of the pandemic.
This was last March, April, and May. I applied to like probably 40 or 50 jobs, which I mean is nowhere near the ceiling for what people will apply for co-ops. Like I hear people who apply like 80 to 100.
Yeah.
But it's not a small amount. It's like definitely hurts to only hear back from 2 companies after applying to 40, and one of them is a rejection, and the other one is the only offer.
So you didn't get any other response?
Not a single one.
38. Wow. I applied to like 15 this semester before the summer, and I got like maybe 5 responses. So
no, they did not want me. But this one that happened to...
What do you think sparked their interest into you?
Well, I've asked them about this because it's a chemical engineering position.
And you're not an engineer?
I'm not an engineer. I'm not a chemist. I was a cellular molecular biology major who had taken, I had taken Orgo 1 and 2 at the time, but like, there was nothing in my resume that was like, this girl's a chemist. But when I asked them about it, because I said that, like, I was like, I'm not qualified for this job. Why did you hire me? Mm-hmm. Their response was basically, yeah, you're not qualified for what we do at all. But the stuff that you did talk about in your interview, you seemed like you were motivated and passionate enough that we could mold your brain to what we do.
That's beautiful. That's a type of boss that I want. Someone that like can see potential and see that I am willing to work.
I can't speak greatly enough well enough, I don't know. About the people that I work with.
You should know you're a grammar Nazi.
I should. I can't speak well enough about the people that I worked with. Like, they were the kindest, coolest company. Oh, I loved all of those people. I didn't really care about the work. I mean, I instilled a love for like chemistry and organic synthesis in me, but the people motivated me a lot.
Can you tell me about the line of work working there, and like what was the most interesting thing that you learned? Is like any tangible experience that you got out of that?
Yeah. So why'd you do that?
To pin your queen. Or not pin it, but target your queen.
Okay.
So what tangible experience did you get out of that, or the greatest lesson? Can you explain your work?
Yeah. So the job that I was working, the company is a chemical sensing product developer. Mm-hmm. So other companies would contract them out and say, we need a sensor for this chemical or this gas, primarily gases. Mm-hmm. And we would develop those sensors using carbon nanotubes, which a carbon nanotube is, do you know what it is?
Yeah, I have somewhat an idea, but I would like you to explain it a little bit. Maybe I can...
It's basically, the easiest way to picture it is if you took a sheet on a nanoscale, you took a sheet that was literally just carbon, one layer of carbon, connected together, you rolled it into a tube. That carbon nanotube some of them are conducting, some of them are semi-conducting, and you can manipulate them in certain ways that it will have a higher resistance or a lower resistance when interacting with a certain whatever analyte you're trying to detect.
You're saying semiconducting. How carbon is not an actual semiconductor like silicon. So how is it able? Do you understand the science behind why it's able to do the semiconduction?
I did when I was working there. It's usually
Could you remember in some form how to explain?
You have to manipulate your carbon nanotube in some way. Like on its own, it won't. The point is, it's when it comes into contact with your analyte, you will. It will. The devices that we were designing.
Is analyte the anode?
Whatever.
Speaking of, like the
analyte is whatever you're trying to detect. So in our case, it was a specific gas, which, based on my NDA, I can't say. But there's a specific gas that we were sensing. When our carbon nanotube, which had been, I can't really go into the,
it's all good.
But when the carbon nanotube is in contact, after being chemically manipulated, when it's in contact with our analyte gas, that completes a circuit. It conducts enough to complete a circuit that we can then detect electronically.
Oh, okay. That's beautiful. That's good to hear. Were you able to, was that like that experience useful for what you're doing right now in your work?
So originally I was just doing it. I was like, I'm going to come in here. Every mentor and boss that I've ever...
Check.
Okay, wait.
Nice. Good move.
Yeah.
I'm back.
I can't stress this enough when I say I have been so fortunate to work with the people that I've worked with. Like, my roommates are all, obviously we're all Northeastern students. We've all been on co-op. A lot of them have worked jobs that have just been emotionally taxing or worked with people that they didn't like. And I have been extremely fortunate that the job that I worked last year, the campus lab that I was working this past semester, the professor that I was working with as an undergraduate assistant this past semester, the job that I'm working this right now, have just been with such motivating people who really want to take on a mentor role and want to see you succeed. So when I first got to the company, my plan was,
it's all good.
I'm just gonna try my best. It doesn't matter what I get out of this job. I don't care if it relates to my career. I'm just trying to add to my toolbox.
Yeah.
And gain this skill regardless of whether or not it'll help me. Because I've always had the mindset that even if, and at least for early career science, it doesn't always matter if everything that you do relates to one specific goal, like end goal. Obviously it's great if all of your experience kind of add up to something.
Yeah, because at some point you want to specialize.
Yeah, but at least at the beginning, it's really good to test out new things, and I'm okay with myself testing out things in all sorts of different directions as long as I'm trying my best enough at them that I'm getting something out of it, even if it's not directly related to what I want to end up doing, because I don't know what I want to end up doing. So I went into this job thinking, I don't really have an idea what I'm doing right now. So where do I go? There. I went into this job thinking, I don't care if this helps me in the long run. I'm gonna try my goddamn best right now. I'm gonna just do my best to learn the science that they're doing, to learn what their goal is, to learn how to become a part of this company. And about halfway, or not even halfway through, well, maybe halfway through. Why do you keep having to
pieces? That is how chess is played, everyone. Okay. Not bad.
Oh my god, you've got so many more.
It's alright. This is our first game, so you'll keep getting better as you understand the mistakes that you're making. Which will be difficult because you can't analyze everything. We're not going to analyze the game after this. We're just going to keep playing.
But yeah, my mentor was really great. His name is Trey. I love him with all my heart. He was so kind to me and supportive, and really, he knew that I was a biology kid. So all the time he was asking me, and I'm using his language, tool belt, toolbox, whatever. How can you add to that? Because that's first day of work. He immediately was like, "We're trying. I want you to succeed as much as you want this, like, to contribute." Which was just so beyond cool of him, because he didn't need to. Nobody. If you hire someone to do a job, you don't need to be focused on their continuation of a career past. I don't know.
That's all right. But okay, so could you explain to me how important? I would say it's not bad.
Do you want to analyze that one right there?
It's not bad because
Okay.
you're still protecting it at the same time. So it's I'm still protecting mine. So they can chill and do whatever they want.
All right, they can chill and do whatever they want.
So yeah, can you explain how important it is to have a mentor in the world we live in at the moment? Do you think it's very useful? Do you think it's necessary to be able to succeed in life, or do you think you can do it by yourself and it's a little bit more difficult?
I think it's totally feasible to make it without one. Like, I don't think it's crucial. I don't think that anyone's ever been like, well, I don't want to say I don't think anyone's ever been hurt by not having one, because definitely I just don't think it's absolutely necessary to everybody's career path. However, to mine specifically, it's been absolutely essential. Like, I'm also a very indecisive person. I don't really trust my own instincts a lot. Like, it is so helpful to have someone. Easiest example, this year I'm working, for the rest of this year, I've got 2 jobs lined up, right? The one that I'm working right now, and which is NASA, JPL. For the past year, this has been my obsession. Aliens, space, past year and a half, actually, like almost 2 years.
Is there a sense that passion's gonna die, or not?
I don't think so. Like, I don't see it dying, but it's also kind of loony to think, what do you want to do in 20 years? You know, look for aliens. Like, that seems like the type of thing you can explore when you're young and you have energy, and it's this crazy thing.
But what makes you think you're gonna this passion is gonna fade?
I don't think it.
it will just.
I don't think it will. But when I picture myself as an adult, I don't picture myself going to dinner parties and being like, "Yes, this is what's going on Venus today."
I mean, why not? That sounds like an interesting conversation you can have.
It does.
It depends on the person. So, I'm gonna let you plan. I'll ask you another question. So, as you've told me countless times, you consider chemistry and biology to be more interesting sciences to learn about, which obviously is your personal opinion, which I humbly disagree with. Could you explain, in your opinion, of course, why these triumph over the sciences like physics, which I personally am more in love with? What makes chemistry and biology tick in your heart, besides physics?
I don't think you're going to like my answer to this one, but I think it's because I'm too dumb for physics.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think so? To me, biology seems like it's very interesting, obviously, learning about life and the way it came up and trying to figure out how the origin came to be. But from my experience in biology, obviously this is a very preliminary experience. In high school, I took honors biology, and it's a lot of memorization. And from what you've told me is that you have to get past that memorization of understanding the diction that you use. And I guess I wasn't into that at the moment. Back in the day, I'm still like in science. In any science topic, I truly enjoy just learning more about it anyway. So like biology is still interesting to me, but physics, what really lies in physics, is trying to understand how reality works. And from what you've told me, you want to understand how life came to be. So I think that's the distinction that we have between each other, is I want to understand what our universe and our reality, while you want to understand what is life, how did life come to be, how did consciousness, I don't know if consciousness is like one of the big things that you
has grown, so this is where I think they tie together. I think the question that I scientifically would answer, I just went, but I don't really know if I like my move.
You want to hear that?
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
The more that I think about it, the more that the real interest that I have, this is a personal interest. I don't know if it'll tie over professionally. I don't know if it can. But the thing that I find to be really cool is how much perception drives our idea of reality. Like,
okay, yeah, I understand.
It's everything that I know to be true is just based on my perception. I mean, as a human individual, as a Indian girl growing up in New Jersey, in Boston, sure, but then also as a human being who exists on planet Earth and has access to the sky and can see stars, or as a collection of cells that has organized enough to fire within my brain and kind of trick me into believing that I've got some sort of individual consciousness as opposed to just being part of some system of energy that's kind of concentrated into a ball that orbits around a star.
That kind of goes against entropy, which that's what I see life as. It's going against the nature of reality and going against what it wants to do, entropy. But from what, yeah, I mean, just
Okay.
From what, so in the book, obviously, you're working with Kevin Hand, one of your mentors,
Yes.
at the NASA internship at JPL, who works at JPL, which is the Jet Propulsion Lab.
Jet Propulsion Lab.
In California.
Pasadena.
So yeah, he said, from before I read a quote from his book, all good. I read a quote from his book saying that, trying to explain what the why of life is, why his life came to be. And his explanation was that metabolism is the why of life.
I actually just wrote an essay, I wrote a full paper on this past semester, so I will go in full detail if you want, but you can stop me at any point.
No, I mean, I would like to get into this tangent that we're going on, but I'm just going to explain. So the why of life being metabolism, saying that metabolism speeds up the entropy of the universe, and that's what the universe wants to do, is getting that as many states in our universe want to be, is equilibrium. And by having life, it allows us entropy to increase at a faster rate than if life wasn't to be here. If you'd like to add to that tangent, it sounds like you do. That was a mistake.
That was.
That was all good.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, you're my physics friend, so you correct me if I'm wrong at any point, but the way during the formation of the Earth, I mean, obviously, billions of years ago, there's a lot of heat and energy and things are flying around, and as Earth is formed, it's just getting pummeled and pounded, right?
Through gravity and everything just comes
That's how we get the moon. I mean, I think it was called Theia, and it's literally the size of Mars, collides into Earth.
Theia, where was Theia? Is this like a moon somewhere?
It's a separate rock formation. I honestly don't know that much about it, but if I remember correctly, granted, this is based on 2 readings that I did, so there could be other theories out there that just
humble yourself. Understand we don't know everything, okay?
I don't know how much of this is speculation from 1 or 2 guys, or how much of this is community consensus. We all agree this happened. But from what I understand, Earth is forming, we're getting pummeled, and finally Earth is kind of settled into at least its own orbit. Our moon is out there, but then at the same time, it's settled in the sense that it's a solid rock formation now. It's still hot as hell. It is hell on Earth at the moment.
This is what would you say is the time in history?
It's called Hadean Earth.
Which is 3.2. Was it 3.2 billion? I don't know.
I think it's
4.2 billion years is the age of Earth. So probably 4 billion years.
I think around 4 billion.
Do you know the actual lifetime of how long the Haiti on Earth lasted for?
I don't, but I want to say, because life started, 3.5, or at least we think 3.5 billion years ago. So,
unicellular cell.
So I mean, not longer than that, because within that whole era occurs. Earth is hot, volcanic activity to the moon. Like Earth is so hot, and that's a lot of energy. The whole trend of the universe is to create equilibrium, create universal equilibrium. That's how entropy works. Like you're just trying to create uniform chaos.
Uniform chaos. That's a world we live in.
Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it so pretty?
I mean, humans came out of it, I guess. Consciousnesses came out of it.
Oh, all right.
Wow, we really went on a tangent from explaining why you like biology more than physics. It's a great tangent. I'm loving it. But,
okay. Well, so
this is.
We're gonna go there. Don't really have a lot of thought going into
honestly,
that one.
Honestly, not the best move. I'm just gonna take this and check you.
I was kind of mean.
And you know what happens when? Oh,
alright.
That's actually the best move. Best move from what I can tell now. People who are listening probably know better.
Oh man, someone who knows chess is gonna watch this and just be.
Honestly, check.
All right.
But yeah.
But can this piece move here? Can I take you?
You can't. You can't because my rook is protected. For anyone who's listening, she doesn't know chess that well.
I know the ways
but
that most of the pieces move.
We're having a fun time. She's in check right now.
Dang. But our last game was I was doing so much better. Okay. Maybe, I at least had more of your pieces.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe you'll get better throughout the night. It's all good. It's a learning process. Chess is literally a learning process.
That's a big maybe.
So right now you only have one move, really.
I have a move?
You have one move. And it's to move your king. You have 3 places to move. Yeah, exactly. So, have you done any research or read about anything about how life originated, or like what are the theories behind how life originated on Earth?
This ties so perfectly to where I was going.
Oh, for sure. Well, this obviously this ties with what you're doing at NASA, which we will get to later into the podcast.
This is what a segue that was, baby. Okay.
But yeah, so can you have like I said, you've done research and have some sort of theory. Could you also explain what environment, or what's the theory, which environment actually produced?
Oh, I would
the actual first living cell.
I would absolutely love to.
The queen is gone.
Well, now I don't want to.
Well, you will, because.
And I still can't go here because your rook's right there.
That's the deadly move right there.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go here.
Okay.
Okay, so as I was saying, Earth's a fiery ball of rage, right? You can kind of think of it as layers. I mean, that's the easiest way to think of it. Earth is an onion. It's got all these layers in it. It's hot in the middle.
Did you discover the layers? We got the crust, beginning, and then we got, I don't remember.
Oh my god, you're really going to test my geology skills right now.
It's all good. I'm bad with geology.
You've got an iron core, then you've got the mantle, then you've got the crust.
The crust. The crust obviously creates a magnetic field that our Earth very much needs for life to sustain.
So you've got this hot core, and each layer on top of that is just, they're all just blocking this heat from getting out. So as opposed to heat readily and easily, freely dissipating into the universe and creating this uniform chaos, it's got all of these convective cells where it has to, I'm sorry to anyone who's trying to visualize this, you don't get my lovely hand motions, but
it's all good.
Heat can kind of go up into this boundary and then it gets circulated back down, but a little bit will dissipate into the next layer. And then that next layer, heat will go into that boundary and circulate within that boundary, but a little bit will dissipate into the next one. So instead of this free movement of heat from the core out into the universe, it's in layers. Okay, so I have to move my king then.
So would you say that in some sort of way gravity goes against entropy because it was able to bring about the actual planets that came to be, and then therefore life came to be. Obviously, there's a lot of missteps in the logic that I'm creating, but
in
gravity,
vague theories, which is the extent of my physics knowledge. Yeah. I mean, gravity, I can never reconcile. I don't understand how it works, which...
Do you understand how, like, the moon orbits?
Yeah. Like, I understand how... Oh, I guess I should rephrase. I understand how gravity works. Like, I understand what it does. Why? No clue.
Do you understand how, like, space-time works and, like, the actual theory of...
I've gotten, like...
theory?
Yeah, general relativity. I've kind of gotten special relativity. I can speak of. I don't actually fully understand it. But most of these things, I gave up on getting a formal education on the first time I took physics.
Okay.
The first time I took physics. I was not good at math in high school. I immediately, because of that, wasn't good at physics in high school. And it wasn't just that I wasn't good at them. I gave up on them. I was not motivated to learn them. Oftentimes in class, I would not study out of spite for my dislike, which is not a great way to spite your teachers. Like, they don't care. But...
You're in check right now, so you have to move your key.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. But I don't know where. So anyway, how life is formed.
That's true.
Beautiful story.
We're going on this tangent. Keep going.
Okay, so Earth is this fiery ball of heat and rage. And all it wants to do is let that heat out. We get a lot of that through volcanic outgassing. Volcanoes just shoot plumes of hot water and water vapor.
This is before an actual ocean was formed, though.
Yeah, so this is the formation of the ocean.
Okay.
I'm gonna go...
That is a possible move.
Okay. Yeah, so volcanic outgassing of all these different substances, primarily water vapor, lets the Earth cool down enough to the point where we get thousands and thousands of years of torrential downpour, which over time accumulates a global ocean. This is where we have an ocean. The world is still this fiery ball of rage. Don't get me wrong. It's still a mean, angry bitch. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, that's
okay.
All right. I think that whoever is listening, or if you're a child, I think you're going to learn the words in some day anyway, and use them anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Look, if you're calling the Earth a mean, angry bitch, it's better than a lot of things to be calling a bitch.
It's your, yeah.
I love the planet, don't get me wrong. But at this point, Earth is
one of the best planets out there, let's be honest. Literally one of the best planets out there. From what we know.
It is my favorite planet in the solar system, I think.
It's the most interesting planet.
Whether or not it's my favorite world in the solar system, different story.
Yeah.
But it's my favorite planet in the solar system. So anyway, it's still hot. It's still really, really hot. It's just managed to cool down enough to maintain an ocean. I'm going to steal Kevin Peter Hand's metaphor at this point.
Yeah.
It's kind of, again, as someone who's not great at physics, this is my best way of describing it, but it's kind of like a circuit with a battery, or it's kind of like a battery on its own that's, it's, and I can't, because you're broke.
You cannot kill.
Okay. Wait, how do I can't get out of this.
You cannot move here, you cannot move here, you cannot move here, you cannot move here, you can move here, you cannot.
I can't move here. Okay, so I can only go there.
At the moment.
So the Earth is this, it's just got all this energy and nowhere to put it. It's like a battery that's storing energy. So this is where...
Check. I think it's checkmate. You can't move here, you can move here, you can move here. Oh, this is blocking the whole rail. Nice checkmate. Good game. Alright, I'll give you white for this time.
Oh, that's so much pressure.
So now you have a little bit of advantage. So
whether or not it actually counts as an advantage.
Here we go. So let's go back to your tangent that you were going about.
Oh, yeah. So...
while putting the pieces.
This is where I'll sidetrack a little bit to give NASA's definition of life, because that kind of helps give context. NASA's definition of life is a chemical system that is capable of Darwinian evolution. So, closed chemical system, you could think, a cell is a closed chemical system, a person is a closed chemical system, a microbiome is a closed chemical system, technically. All of these things are living, whether or not they are life, like a holistic definition of life, is where Darwinian evolution comes into play. Darwinian evolution means that it is able to replicate, but imperfectly, and those imperfections are passed on
to the offspring.
To the offspring, exactly.
Okay. So that was your explanation of life. Going back to...
Oh, I did this all wrong. Okay, wait, sorry. I did this right the first time.
It's all good.
I know, but I'm just upset because I did do this right the first time.
My viewers, they could be one. They'll judge you. That's okay.
Just know that I did it right the first time. Wait, double check this.
It is beautiful. The king is in the red spot.
Okay.
You can move. All right. So going back to what you're saying, you're talking about this definition.
That's NASA's definition of life. And it very well describes what life does. Right? Life self-replicates.
Empirically, we've seen much of the evidence goes towards that.
It replicates its chemical system.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what life does, but it still doesn't answer how that came to be, why that came to be, and that's where Kevin Peter Hand brings in the metabolism as a third very, very important aspect of life that really does, I mean, it answers why, because you have this hot Earth serving as a battery, like it's storing up all this energy, and entropy says that it wants to dissipate that energy, but it can't. It's stuck in Earth. Life kind of serves as a wire that completes that circuit and gives that energy somewhere to go.
But everything recycles at some point, and Earth obviously has cyclic patterns that occur, like the water cycle, the carbon cycle. So wouldn't you just say that it's stuck in a repeating loop, and entropy will never actually... I just don't understand how entropy must be loosely or increasing very, very incrementally and at a slow rate. And I don't know, it just makes... It's confusing to see that how life adds to the entropy and how it adds to the acceleration of the entropy to equilibrate.
I think that's where people get too anthropocentric. Like this is also something that I feel very strongly about. Having a very, very anthropocentric point of view.
That's true.
Like it doesn't make sense to think of life as something that would help entropy if we're organized systems.
Is it anthropocentric or is it more like biocentric, like life itself?
A little bit of both. I mean, Anthropocentric.
Anthropocentric.
You're bilingual. You get a pass for anything.
Yeah. Bilingual and a half. Just a flex. But yeah, anthropocentric, that's human-centered vision of the world. Like having a perspective only of the human.
I say anthropocentric as a catch-all because this bleeds into my feelings about when people talk about alien life or just perceptions of the world, because I can only speak as a human.
Yep.
But it's biocentric too. Like just assuming that there is life or coming from a biological standpoint, it seems to not make sense that life would assist in entropy because we're organized. But that's only from the point of view that life lasts forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if life continues forever, there's always going to be some level of organization to this energy and to this matter. So it wouldn't make sense that life assists in entropy, in creating, spreading out all of these things.
At the same, another like counter argument to his point would be, I mean, at the moment we've been searching for life for like the past century, let's say. Obviously, people have wondered, but we've had the technological advancements in the past century to be able to actually, which Kevin Hand talks in his book very much about. We've had the technology to be able to.
Oh, I didn't want to do that.
It's all good. To be able to, I lost my train of thought. I'm gonna come back. No worries. So I'm thinking we haven't been able to encounter life in any sort of way through that technology. So his argument that life aids to the entropy incrementally increasing entropy of the universe, which is what the universe wants to get to, that balance, quote unquote. Since we haven't seen life in any sort of way except for us, wouldn't that be a good argument to explain that life isn't actually just based, or the purpose of life is to be this catalyst for increasing metabolism, since we haven't actually encountered life in any sort of way?
So you're saying that because we haven't encountered life anywhere else,
why would we assume that the life's main purpose is to increase entropy of the universe, to balance it?
That is an interesting perspective to say, like, oh, if this is its role, why don't we see it happening anywhere else? But I think life is one method of doing that, and there are other methods.
That's true.
There's radiation. There's radiation. There's, just general collisions. Just any aspect or any behavior of the universe is going to be favored by increasing entropy. I think it's weird to think of things as like life has a purpose and more life is favored because.
Okay.
Like, there's no real, at least the way that I've always looked at things, there's no purpose to anything. It's just favored or it's not favored.
That's a really good way to see, like, just like anything in life, like, you favor playing chess, for example, compared to, like, and you will dictate and dedicate your time to playing that, whatever you want to do, because that's how your personality comes to be.
Oh, I was just so excited.
It's all good. So would you like to go back to where we were going about the origin of life on Earth? So you're talking
about yes. So
the coming of Earth through gravitational pull.
Yeah, so just to recap, Earth is a hot bitch. We finally cool it down enough to get some rain. There's an ocean. In this ocean, there are all these...
Check.
Are you kidding me? What shall we do here?
You have to move your king.
That's the only option.
And you can't castle when you're in check. You cannot castle.
I forgot that was a thing that I could do. Despite that you showed me an hour ago? Okay.
Okay.
I guess that's it.
That works. It's beautiful.
So we now know, Earth is just looking for ways to get rid of this heat from inside out. Mm-hmm. So people then look to think, where are places where there's this heat transfer occurring? Because that's what gives us energy sinks. When you think of life as a sink to this energy, in order to find where that originates, you look for places where there's high energy transfer.
So, like, for example, hydrothermal vents.
Hydrothermal vents. Such beautiful geological features. Mm-hmm. Beautiful geological features. You think of what life needs. Mm-hmm. It needs the right chemistry.
Right chemistry, which includes obviously water.
Which includes water. Wait, all life on Earth has a water solvent. That's why we call it the universal solvent. Because
due to its polarity.
It's polarity.
Mm-hmm.
So you need water. You need the right organics around, because we are all carbon based.
So, like, does that include like amino acids, the actual so phosphorus, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, all of these that create.
Organics are anything that has that CH chemistry.
Okay.
So all of the rest are all.
It's good to know. I have to understand chemistry better.
If it has the right organics, the rest of it is like you need minerals, you need. Oh my god, I gotta refocus myself.
It's an exercise, everyone. It's an
I
exercise
know
to talk and to have a nice talk and play chess at the same time.
You're really testing me. All right. I don't know what to do with your knight right there.
It's chill.
Don't
worry about it. Just
I'm kind of worried about it.
Go for it. Go kill it.
No.
But keep going.
Is this?
That's possible. I can't kill it.
Possible.
I can't kill it.
Okay. We'll go there.
It's not the best move.
I was waiting for that feedback.
But keep going.
So hydrothermal vents are a beautiful, beautiful example of one, an abundance of water, obviously. Hydrothermal vents occur deep in the ocean where the crust is stressed enough by all this heat and tectonics and everything going on underneath that you get basically an underwater geyser of hot water.
Mm-hmm.
Another important aspect of hydrothermal vents is that they are almost never the same pH as ocean water.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two big types of hydrothermal vents.
So what causes that difference in pH?
It depends on what kind of hydrothermal vent you have.
Okay.
There's the two kinds that we have seen are black smokers, which are like 400 degrees Celsius and highly acidic. They're like, these are monsters. These are beasts.
Really?
They-
What's the other one?
It's called a white smoker.
Sounds like a weak ass.
It's about 150 degrees Celsius.
So weak.
I know.
So weak.
And it is alkaline.
Okay. Alkaline meaning it's a basic solution.
Basic.
Okay. And the other one was acidic, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this little basic bitch it lasts a lot longer.
I like that. Okay.
I mean, when
it
I
lasts longer. What causes this to last longer?
Well, it's just the way the heat that we get from a black smoker is from magmatic heat. So it's literally an underwater volcano.
Okay.
The heat that you get from an alkaline white smoker is from an exothermic reaction that occurs with the materials that are around it. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's the way the rock serpentinizes, which is just
Serpentinization. I remember reading that in Alien Ocean.
That's just a fancy term for some specific rock chemical reaction.
Okay.
The reason it's called that is because I think it's olivine rock.
It has to do with snakes.
When you look at it, I mean, you can Google a picture of it. It looks like snake skin.
Okay.
So it literally, they were like, "Hey, it kind of is snakeifying," is essentially what the scientists called it. Which is goofy, but they do them. Did you already take my other bishop?
I did not. It's right there.
But you took one of my bishops.
I did.
Dang.
I did indeed.
I wanted that one.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. So go back. Let's keep going back to
yeah.
this tangent. I love the tangents that are going on, but
so
what's your explanation of how did life originate? Keep going.
So the one key thing for understanding this is the way that I guess this is a good metaphor for it. The way that someone can decipher living tissue from dead tissue. I mean, it's made up of all the same things, right? It's if you have someone's arm and you cut it off.
Yeah.
It's living until you stop seeing proton transfer. Because that's what energy, that's where all, your respiration, anything that's any sort of chemical reaction that's going on in your body or in a living system requires this proton transfer, which is basically you build up protons on one side of the membrane, and then you use a proton pump to the other side, and that's how you
it's literally
get energy.
It's literally a circuit. It's literally a circuit.
That's
so
exactly
we're just wired beings. We're just a circuit in flesh.
You
that
require disequilibrium in order to attain energy. That's how biology works.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm going to take your queen now. Thank you.
Hi.
Check. Well, let's start over after this game.
Can I can't do that, right?
No.
Oh, you're freaking.
Yeah, you should have took out that horse.
Oh, that's tough. Okay. No. Okay.
That works. So yeah, keep going.
I don't even know what I would do after this. How did you do that with 3 pieces? Literally 3 pieces.
Oh, right. It's experience. So you're talking about, you were talking about serpentization.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The actual...
So we first discovered black smokers. That was the first big one where people were like, oh my god, there's this heat, there's a proton gradient that's built into nature, there's plenty of energy, there's plenty of the right chemistry, it's underwater, this must be it. And then they kind of realized, black smokers, they can last as short as 10,000 years. And some of them last a couple dozen decades and that's it. Which we don't actually know the temporal scale of life. We don't. I feel like you're tricking me right there.
You're actually kind of right. I'm tricking you. But figure it out.
Okay. If I move my palm there, how would that be tricking me? I don't know what you're trying to do. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to pretend you didn't do that. Is my plan.
That's fine.
So yeah, for all we know, it only takes a couple years for life to start. For all we know, it only takes a couple of years for the right chemical reactions to occur, but those they have to go through like millennia and billions of years of permutations in order to like actually be sustainable. What are you up to?
I thought this was my queen, I'm gonna be honest. I thought that was my queen, that's why I moved this. So my plan actually did not work out.
Okay. Oh, haha, I'm in your head. Don't choke now.
Don't choke now, I hope I don't.
Shortly after we figure out that there's black smokers out there, someone else finds white smokers, and we think, okay, not that life requires all this time to start, but wouldn't it be a lot more feasible if, let's for example say that we didn't find white smokers, so we only knew about black smokers.
Mm-hmm.
There's these things, they last 10,000 years, and then they get paved over with magma, just like a volcano. What are the chances that life is able to form there and then latch on within that 10,000 years and then spread out enough from that it will survive? You know, do you know what I'm saying? That doesn't, like, it's not impossible, but it's just not feasible.
Mm-hmm.
More likely, it's at this white smoker that lasts so much longer. Like
what's the reason behind why it would actually last longer?
A white smoker won't get to that point where it'll erupt like a volcano because the heat isn't coming from magma.
Okay.
It's coming from that exothermic reaction on the rock.
What is can you explain what the exothermic reaction is coming from? Like what are the chemicals involved? What is obviously life is not necessary for this reaction to occur, but why does it occur?
I don't remember what the actual chemicals are, but it's with the type of rock that white smokers tend to be, which is olivine rock.
Oh.
It's that type of rock, and it's whatever is reacting with them, which I very easily can look up, but I just refuse to at this moment. Wait, what am I doing? This is not my piece.
I would look at your king and where he's located right now.
Can I still do the little jumpy boy
Nope.
thing?
You cannot do the castle.
That would be pretty fun if I did, though.
So,
well, my king's not technically in danger.
It's not check at the moment. So, I have another question to ask you, but I don't know if you want to keep going with where you're going with the original life. So, you were talking about the white and
the white and black smokers.
Smokers. And I don't know if you want to keep going explaining what...
I'll finish that up because there is people have so many theories, but there's the two big ones are this hydrothermal vent, or this is quoting Darwin, a warm little pond. Mm-hmm. The main issue that people have, so many people do believe that hydrothermal vents are very feasible, in terms of like, this is most likely where life originated. There is a strong party who does not believe that is the case. They're a big argument for that.
So what's their counter argument for how life originated then, if it's not through hydrothermal vents? And we know already. I think we have some empirical evidence for why life started in the water, right?
Yeah, and most people can at least agree water needs to be there. Yeah. Like you need water as a solvent. But something that's kind of contradictory. What are you doing?
Check. Checkmate. Please checkmate. Check.
1, 2.
Check.
Yeah, that's all I can do.
I will stay black to give you the one advantage.
Because that works really well.
It works very well.
Yeah, so everyone can kind of basically get on board with the idea that, hey, we need water, but outside of that is how much water? Because so many important biomolecules are... What is the word that I'm thinking of? Unfavorable in excess water, because water is a product with them. Okay. So do you know Le Chatelier's rule?
No,
principle?
I do not. Can you explain, give an example? Are you talking about chemicals that are very reactive outside of water? Or are you talking about chemicals that are non-reactive outside of water?
So what I'm referring to is peptide synthesis. Or
so what is that, peptide synthesis?
Peptides are proteins, which are absolutely essential for life.
Oh, for sure.
They're very, very major biomolecules. Mm-hmm. In peptide synthesis, water is a product. So Le Chatelier's principle is basically how we achieve equilibrium. If you're, picture your reaction, these are your products. These are your products, these are your reactants. The more products that you have, the more your reaction will drive towards the reactants. The more reactants that you have, the more your reaction will drive towards the product. So because water is a product in peptide synthesis, if you have an excess of water, it's not favorable to keep driving that forward reaction. So many people will say, well, like, you'll hydrolyze your peptides and they won't form favorably. Okay, I only have one started with. That's all right.
That's all right. It's all good.
Always do it.
This is a weak move by me, but go ahead.
Okay. No, I did that last time.
You should take my pawn.
I can't take your pawn right now. Oh, why?
This is called the Indian defense. This is a very weak move because take it, because then I take with my queen, but then you can move your horse. See that? Then you red, yay, black. Then now my queen has to move, and usually it's gonna. For example, if I was to move here, or if I was to move here, which I would not, I'm just gonna show you. This is where you pin my queen. You see, I can't move my queen now.
Yeah,
it's gonna die because my king is there and my queen is protecting. So I lose my queen. So that's one of them. I've done that many times. That's just a small tangent of what not to
Thank
do.
you.
But yeah, we'll keep playing from this position. I'm just gonna go back here. Go ahead.
Okay. Ooh, now I have to come.
So going through hydrothermal vents, what was the other theory? You said there was a counter argument. What was the other theory for how life originated if it's not through hydrothermal vents?
I wish it was some exciting, like totally different hypothesis, but it's really not. It's it's called a hydrothermal field, which is, picture there's a volcano kind of near water. Okay. And somewhere a little downstream of that volcano.
So this is outside the water.
Yeah, not in an ocean, but still in a body of water that just happens to be upstream of the ocean. Okay. The arguments for this are you still have, because you're still in a hydrothermal field, because you're still next to volcanic activity, you still have all that energy disequilibrium. You still have the same organics and the same chemistry going on. But you get this wet, dry cycling. As heat changes, that the amount of water in that warm little pond can increase and decrease. A lot of studies have been done that drying cycle is really, or have shown that drying cycle is really important. It can concentrate your molecules. Some studies have been shown that like you get a near membrane formation, which is really cool when you're kind of coming up with a protocell. What I've noticed is that hydrothermal vents is the major theory. Hydrothermal fields is a minor theory. So hydrothermal fields, people who support that have a lot of arguments against hydrothermal vents. They're like, no, this is wrong because there's no access to UV rays, which might be important for life starting as an energy source.
But honestly, this is showing my ignorance, are UV rays able to penetrate through a large depth of ocean?
Some people, so they're not. I mean, when you get to the bottom of the ocean where hydrothermal vents are, they're not. So some people will say you need UV in order to have sufficient energy for life.
Look at your queen. Just
bitch.
There's ways to defend. There are ways to defend. So going back to
that's kind of a tangent. I mean, some people will also say like there are hydrothermal vents that are in shallow enough waters that UV can penetrate. And there's also, you have to keep in mind, life is starting not on the Earth that we see today. It's a very different environment. The ocean is a little bit more acidic. It's hotter. The ocean is shallower. Like, there's so many different variables that, like, it can be hard to picture, and I'm not good at picturing it because I don't have a great concept of geological history. Like, I really don't.
That's all right. I do
but that is, like, those are the two major theories. I mean, hydrothermal vents, hydrothermal fields. The main idea is you get some type of heat, thermal gradient, some type of chemical disequilibrium, mixing your organics, and water.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where do we see that else in the universe?
Oh, this is a perfect tangent to go into our next topic, which is you working at NASA.
I am. Oh,
Shaila Saifee is working at NASA.
How dumb does that sound?
How cool is that? That's crazy.
That sounds... Oh,
Once
God.
you told me that news, I was like, that's crazy.
It sounds fake.
I was like, I'm not even able to find an internship. Like, come on.
I'm not qualified for this
Like,
job.
Oh my God, that's so crazy. That's so cool that you can work at NASA. I think you have the passion and the intelligence to work there, for sure.
One of those things we can say yes. One of those things...
But passion could drive you far. Passion could drive you far. And I do recognize your intelligence, because you do seem like you are one of the smartest people.
Someone who actually knows what I'm trying to say is going to hear this and go...
Because, I mean, what do you base your non-intelligence on? Is it because you, like you said, you felt like you were unintelligent with physics,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, like, it's just not your niche, you know? You can't be good at everything, you know? I'm not good at biology. I mean, maybe it's because I didn't put the effort in, but there's just things you're just like, I guess this goes back to like your existential who are you? It's like your personality. You're born to be like specialized in some sort of way, or like why does your own personality steer towards a certain passion? Why does that occur? Like why? Why are you born? It seems like you're born, it's like predetermined that you're born to like want to work at NASA for what is it? I can't see it. Cellular molecular biology. I could literally not think of it for a second. But yeah, I wouldn't call people. At the same, I do want to get into the question of what is intelligence at some point tonight. I think that's a segue we'll get into later. And but yeah, I wouldn't call you dumb at all, because you know you are very knowledgeable about a certain topic, and you're very passionate. And I don't know if passion causes intelligence, but I think maybe it promotes it in some sort of way.
I can see how having a drive. I mean, best example. I have one. Best example is.
Is it my turn?
I have no idea.
This was not here, so I'm assuming yes. No, it's your turn. Sorry for watching. We just keep forgetting to play, but we'll keep playing.
The best example, I mean, is I've only really cared about space for about 2 years now. I mean, I've always thought it was interesting, but like, I was never like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I mean, in high school, if you asked me what I was passionate about, I would have said jellyfish. That was my thing.
Why is that?
I don't know. I found a random. Actually, it was really cool. There's a type of jellyfish it's called Turritopsis dorniae. It primarily lives / is found off the coast of Japan, and biologically it's immortal. What was that sound?
The sound of something
dreams shattering. Biologically it's immortal, which, I mean, I did this research when I was a junior in high school and didn't fully understand how aging works. At this point I can tell you, does it create, like, this is just based on what I know from biology. Is it based on creating its own stem cell, like just recycling stem cells? That's essentially what it does. So it theoretically is possible to actually to be able to live for a long period of time by just, obviously, like, it's more complicated, being very basic, but in some sort of sense you can, if you insert stem cells in locations, which would require trillions of stem cells for sure, because you have to completely renew your whole body, unless you just don't want one part of your body to be renewed, which people can choose whatever they want to be. Could you imagine if we got to like a dystopian society where you're technically immortal, but every like human lifetime you have to choose one body part to remove?
That'd be crazy. That should be one of the plots in Love, Death, Robots.
I still haven't started watching.
You gotta watch that.
I know, but I'm supposed to watch. The kid that I went on a date with like 3 weeks ago was like, "You have to watch this show first," and I haven't watched. I've been watching this show with my mom, so I can't.
Good to know. Not a tangent we need to get into. Maybe after podcast. But,
is it my turn?
Yeah, it is. High Castle. By the way, that's High Castle. So,
I need to set myself up for that.
Yeah. I would suggest the castle as soon as possible for you.
For me? Okay, so I can't do that.
Because that's what I do. If I'm playing someone
this year.
Beautiful. So yeah.
Oh right, so this jellyfish. Okay, so technically I think the stem cells would work, but I don't know a lot about aging, but the couple theories that I do know, one is you age because your telomeres shorten, so after a certain amount of time, like your genes aren't going to replicate, or your DNA isn't going to replicate the right way, or whatever.
I'm going to help you with this game.
That's what I like to hear. Why did that help me? Oh.
Actually, no, you can't. Oh, you can.
Why can't I do that?
You can. You can't kill with your horse.
I can't?
Or you can. Never mind. You can. Sorry. But I would not kill with your horse.
Why?
Look at where the bishop is. Look where my bishop. Look where it's aiming. So, what do you kill with? You have another thing you can kill with.
In this situation I did?
You do.
Okay, well it's not that night. It's not that fun.
What is right in front of you? There you go. She got it, everyone. She got it. I'm down a queen, so this should make it a little bit easier for me, okay?
Oh my god. So much pressure now. Up until now I could be like, well, it's a fair fight.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, you can give a brief explanation of what the jellyfish is and how does it, or what's your reasoning as to how it's able to sustain life for long periods of time?
It depends on what you define. I mean, it wouldn't work from a human perspective.
Why is that?
Its cells are able to transdifferentiate, which we see in a couple different animals. Like
so
the chicken.
Transdifferentiate in the sense that, is it like because it is a stem cell and it can be whatever function it wants to be?
Its cells, I'm going to have to refresh myself on the science at some point because I loved it so much and I haven't learned about it since my junior year of high school, maybe even senior year. But so when your cells specialize, they differentiate. Mm-hmm. And then some animals, and even in humans, I think we can see it, where your cells can then de-differentiate and re-differentiate into something else.
So this is specifically for the jellyfish, or we see it in us?
I can't remember if it's in humans, but it is in a lot of other animals as well. This jellyfish, it can trans-differentiate, which means that you don't need to go through that de-differentiation process. And in fact, you don't need to go through that de-differentiation process. It just gives you a little bit more freedom. In this specific instance, it can go through its whole life cycle and then transdifferentiate its cells so that it reverts back to its polyp stage. It can do that at the end of its life cycle. It can do that if the water gets too hot.
It seems like it's conscious of its own cells itself. Like compared to us humans. It's conscious of
stress, or it's aware of stress. It's a stress reaction. So aging is a stressor, as is salinity or temperature. When it interacts with any of these mild stressors.
Due to, I'm assuming because of disorder coming into, as always, for any system just occurs, and entropy is just going to take over your life, and that's mostly the reason why we age and we die. You're welcome, everyone. But yeah, so I think we should get into the biggest topic of the podcast, which we should have done.
Oh my god, yeah, don't get me into a jellyfish tangent, that's my bad.
Can you describe to me, without sparing any details, as to what you specifically do at your NASA internship? I want to hear all the details. Can you also describe the broader concept of what the project is trying to achieve? And also slowly name the position that they actually gave you.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with, unfortunately, like the most boring part of this is what I actually do in my day-to-day. I do data analysis of...
Nice, I took the queen. Let's go.
God damn. Yeah, I mean, we're in a pandemic, so what I do is remote.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I work with the Ocean Worlds Lab, and the Europa is one of Jupiter's moons. It is currently where we think we can find life in the solar system. So I'm working with Europa's team, helping them understand ice. So,
and how are you doing that?
They previously, in 2013, went to Alaska and studied, I want to say about a dozen lakes, all which are frozen over. And so that kind of simulates an environment that we see on Europa, because Europa is this moon, one of Jupiter's many, many moons. And it's covered in a global ocean, which is then covered in a layer of ice. Which, I mean, I don't know if you...
That's not a good move, but keep going.
You can say it's not a good move, but will I be able to recognize why?
You could. Yeah, it's not bad, but go ahead. But yeah, keep going.
How much do you know about tidal energy?
So my basic knowledge is that, for example, let's beautiful move. Let's get into the idea is through gravity. It's all based on gravity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So our moon is obviously not uniform like most objects. I'm gonna give the example of our moon and Earth. Our moon is not uniform like what is given in most like physics classes. In a physics example, it's a perfectly spherical, perfectly uniform dense object. But no, that's not true.
Can I pause you for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I cancel?
You can. I'm not checking you.
Okay,
So yeah, go here. Put it.
Okay.
That was not the best move. But because now I got these two going. One of them is gonna die nonetheless. So basically, tidal energy is due to the idea that the moon is non-uniform, and it has a centrifugal force going around our Earth, and as it goes around the Earth, which is every 30 days, obviously, which is based on what you can kill. This non-uniformity creates gravitational pulls on the actual water, and due to that, obviously this changes with the different examples used. For example, Jupiter and Europa, it's obviously going to be different. Jupiter has a larger gravitational pull. And also, the gravitational pull of Earth does affect, or the non-uniformity of Earth obviously helps as well. So due to that, it changes the force, therefore creating a tidal wave, and thus creating energy that allows life to persist.
That's exactly it. So on Earth, I mean, Earth is small. Our moon is small. So it's the tidal energy that we see is really just enough to pull the tides.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we get high tide and low tide on different sides of the planet. On Jupiter, where Jupiter is huge, Europa is much larger, and both of their orbits or the orbit of Europa around Jupiter is a much more elliptical. It's a much, much greater force of this, essentially you're squeezing and releasing a tennis ball, and that creates friction.
Exactly.
So
that's a great analogy, actually. And I know it's from Alien Ocean.
Yes, you read it too. This
Yes.
is where I learned everything.
It's a really, honestly, a very good book. We very much recommend it, especially if you're into science and learning how they figure out how life, or not life. Obviously, they haven't figured out what life is. That would have been great news on Earth. But, how potential life can occur due to alien oceans.
Wait, I gotta think through this move. So you gotta
go ahead.
Okay. If I push this, I feel like I'm not using my rook enough. I feel like I want to really get something out of this bad boy.
You do you. But yeah, I mean, keep going with so what do you do? Keep going.
So Europa, because of this immense amount of friction, because of this, it's got enough friction basically to maintain an ocean, but whereas Earth, our heat comes from the sun, so it's external. So, our surface the surface of our ocean is melted. It's water, and it gets colder as you go down. Europa's energy is coming from within, So
Due to the tidal energy.
it's colder at the top. It's covered in a layer of ice.
But can you explain the environment at which you're actually studying?
The one that I'm personally studying?
Yeah.
So I'm studying Alaskan permafrost.
Alaskan permafrost. Okay.
So we collected data about the methane content, the carbon dioxide content, and the isotopic signature. Do you know what an isotopic signature is?
Isotopic. Let me give a ignorant guess.
Go for it.
Let's see if I can get
I'm
it.
excited.
So, isotopic. Isotope. I'm just going from the basics.
Yep.
Isotope. An isotope is an atom that has an extra neutron in its nucleus, right? Am I to say that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, extra. It just has a different number.
Has a different number of different number of neutrons. Obviously, like you can have for example, not oxygen, hydrogen. There's 3. There's the one without. There's 3 now.
Are you talking about 3
hydrogen?
protons, 3 neutrons, or 3 isotopes?
3 isotopes.
Okay.
There's 3 isotopes of hydrogen. There's deuterium. I don't know the names. Sorry, I'm trying to remember, but there's 3. There's one without a neutron, with a neutron, and 2 neutrons. But yeah, so isotopic, what was it called?
Signature.
Isotopic signature. So, and this, what does this showcase? Just so I can.
I was going to say some keywords here are thermogenesis and biogenesis.
Okay, thermo meaning heat, and genesis meaning the creation of life. I think Genesis. That's the
Genesis
language
creation.
for it. So yeah, creation, the heat generation. Just explain it, okay? I don't know.
Okay, so, I mean, specifically I'm working with methane.
Yeah.
So, methane, if you don't know, is carbon with 4 hydrogens attached to it. Carbon has 2 stable isotopes. We also have that's carbon 12 and carbon 13.
Okay.
Carbon 14 also exists. It's not stable, so we use it for radioactive dating, carbon dating, which is a whole other spiel that's not really important here. But carbon 13 and carbon 12 both exist in stable forms. Carbon 13, well, it's easier to just talk about it as a ratio. I won't get into the nitty-gritty because it's not that interesting unless you're doing exactly what I do. But the ratio of carbon 12 to carbon 13 can indicate, or in any substance, can indicate whether it's biologically sourced or geologically sourced.
So what does that mean, biologically and geologically sourced? Biologically meaning if this is carbon 12 with carbon 13.
The ratio of one to the other.
One to the other. If there's more carbon 12, is that more geology? So as biologically, that means, do you know there's reactions occurring through the biological reactions?
So,
So what? You can do it. You can talk and play. She can do it.
So the carbon 12, we'll call it lighter carbon. Carbon 13, we'll call it heavier carbon because it's got 1 more neutron in its nucleus.
I don't understand. Keep going.
As you get heavier carbon content, your isotopic value increases. It gets closer to 0.
Yeah.
It's empirically known that the ratio of carbon 12 to carbon 14, or carbon 12 to carbon 13 in the atmosphere is at a value it's at a value of negative 47, which the actual mathematics of we won't go into because 1, I'm bad at math.
Okay.
And 2, no, that's kind of it. I'm just bad at math. And it's also not that interesting.
Check.
I was gonna put it here just to mess with your work. And I was like, no, it's probably not that important.
You should have put it that.
I was so close to. To doing that.
Mistake found.
Okay. What can I just
You cannot.
I can't?
Look at my bishop. Look at the position.
Where's your bishop? Oh.
Beautiful position. No, you can't do this.
Oh, wait. Oh, my God!
Oh, my God. I just got you so hard. Okay, keep going. About what you're explaining? Carbon 13, carbon 12, and
basically
heavier and lighter carbon.
To make do you want the nitty-gritties of it, or should I just tell you the
Yeah, go
purpose of
ahead.
it?
Go ahead. I want to learn more. That's the whole point of this, no?
So,
It's more.
there's two major types of bacteria that we study, methanogens, which produce methane, and methanotrophs, which consume methane.
Okay.
When methanogens produce methane, it has a specific it has a biogenic isotopic signature, which is to say its isotopic value will be less than -47.
So, sorry, I completely lost when we're talking about -47. Where does this number come from?
That is the atmospheric content, or the atmospheric ratio of of heavy to light carbon, which it's empirically sourced. We just know it to be -47. Let's just move.
Maybe it's just under attack.
Oh.
You did explain that you didn't want to go into the math. Just as why number 42 is the number for everything that
the meaning of life.
Exactly.
But yeah, so wait, can
I should. Damn, that's all good.
So, wait, did I want to do that? Yeah, I did. A good rule of thumb is if your isotopic value is less than -47, that is to say, you have more light carbon than in the atmosphere. This is going to be a lot of words, a greater light carbon content relative to your heavy carbon content than the atmosphere, you likely have a biogenic source of that methane.
Okay.
So it's likely a result of microbial activity or just biological activity. In our case, it's usually microbial activity.
If we go into the foundational idea of like why so you're saying that heavier carbon, the higher the ratio, there's more biogenic, right? Heavier, right? Or is it light? Light is larger ratio.
Well, it's hard to differentiate whether or not it's like increase or decreasing heavy versus increasing or decreasing light, because this is all in terms of the ratio of one to the other. So you could increase your light content and it would do the same thing as decreasing your heavy content. What's more important is the ratio of one to the other, because usually the ratio is what you'll compare. It's not even like you're comparing a heavy carbon content to a heavy carbon content. You're comparing a ratio to a ratio at any given stance. Okay. Whenever you're trying to like isotopically source something, you're always comparing it to the ratio of the atmosphere. You're not comparing it to one absolute value.
Okay. I see. So is this what you've been specifically working on, is looking at the carbon content at a Alaskan lake?
Yes. So I'm looking... Yes, that's what I want to do. I'm looking at a variety of lakes, and I'm comparing their methane content with depth. Oh, I should have thought that through for more than 1 second. I was so excited.
You think I would blunder? May I keep going? Sorry for ruining your day by taking your rook. Everyone look at it and see what has occurred.
Yeah, so I basically, for these, I want to say 13 or 14 lakes, I'm comparing we have these ice cores that we've taken from each of these lakes. So I have, for each core, their depth, and then with that depth, the methane concentration, the isotopic value at each of those points of depth. I think there's 10 or 12 points that we measure individually at each, for each core, and their carbon dioxide content. And then I analyze those trends to determine what would have caused those changes in concentration. So, for example, if I see a heavy increase in methane, and I also see a swing in the isotopic profile towards a biogenic source, I can say, hey, there's probably methanotrophs that produced all this methane, giving it a biogenic source. So there's microbes here. The whole point of this is being able to build a tool, build almost a database to analyze ice. We want to know how to analyze ice in order to determine whether or not there's biological activity on it.
Oh, okay. So I think I'm understanding what is the purpose for it.
Yeah.
So, for example, if in the future we're able to set out on this great adventure of sending a machine, and probably artificial intelligence that can do its own work and live by its own means, and maybe it has its own sentient personality. I don't know. But it goes to this, specifically Europa, for example. It drills into the ice, goes into the ocean, and having gathered that data, it's able.
Oh no! What are you gonna do?
It's able. He kind of fucked. It's able to look back at that data and be able to create similarities or reason that maybe if these same chemical compounds or this ratio that has occurred, was it? But once again, was it the heavier to light is greater or light to heavier? You said I was kind of confused because I was out of it.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah. But what? So was it that there's more heavier carbon isotopes, carbon-13 compared to carbon-12, that shows the methanogens?
So it's kind of tricky because I did, but not a great one.
I can get queen.
That was what I was hoping you wouldn't do.
Why would I not do that?
I don't know, just to be nice.
I'm going to end you now. That's it. That's all.
Well, okay, so it's kind of tricky because methanotrophs will consume light carbon, right?
Okay.
So you would expect that your heavy carbon content will increase. At the same time, it depends on what you're looking at, like what types of microbes you're looking at, what type of biological activity you're looking at. There's also isotopic signatures for not just methane.
Mm-hmm.
People look at it for carbon in CO2. People look at it in sulfur. There's so many different ways to go about it. I'm just working on this one type of analysis.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, like, this is all virtual, right? So how does this work virtually?
They collected this data in 2013 when they could go to Alaska.
I mean, they probably can now. The pandemic's pretty much over. Depends on who you ask and where they live.
I think it's becoming an epidemic as opposed to a pandemic.
What is the difference again?
Pandemic is global.
Global?
Epidemic has concentrated centers.
Really? I always use those words wrong then. I would just say epidemic or pandemic.
I mean epidemic because you can think of epicenter.
That's a good idea. But I know. The more you know.
So to wrap up this whole project, I build this tool, or I work on this tool to analyze ice.
Yeah.
In the next couple years, we're hoping to send the Europa Clipper, which will orbit Europa and take spectra.
I'll give you some help. Beautiful. Just kidding. I completely forgot my queen was there. I was like,
okay.
Okay, check. We're playing a blitz game, baby.
So in the next couple of years, we send the Europa Clipper. It'll orbit. It'll take whatever analysis that we can, and then hopefully by the end of the decade, we send a Europa lander. That's the team that I'm really working on, the Europa lander mission.
Yeah.
And we land on Europa. We drill into the ice. We get these ice cores similar to how we have them from Alaska. We maybe see microbes. We maybe see a giant octopus that has developed its own intelligence. We maybe see nothing. We maybe just see water.
Sure.
What we know is that there's water there. There's organic chemistry there. There's potentially hydrothermal vents there. It, as far as I can tell, is our best bet at finding life in the solar system.
So what kind of life have you been able to find through the actual analysis that you've done by yourself, or through?
I mainly just look at microbes, methanogens, methanotrophs. I don't want to put it anywhere.
Could you name one of them?
One of what?
One of the microbes that you found. Or you just like, I just found life.
No, I just look for general trends. I can't do any specific analysis. I mean, if they wanted to, they could theoretically go back to the lakes, pull out some water, and then do a genomic analysis to see what types of DNA and RNA they find. But they didn't. That's actually some work that might be going on for, more specifically, Mars. People are interested in finding or in understanding genomes of halophiles.
Halophiles. What is a halophile? Describe.
A salt-loving microbe.
Salt-loving microbe. Am I a salt-loving microbe if I do put salt on my food?
Not unless you soak yourself in a salty brine on a regular basis, that your cells can absorb all that salt.
Unfortunate. I cannot.
Then you are not a halophile.
Small tangent. I put a lot of salt in my food after being able to learn how to cook. I became a salt addict. But yeah, so I guess we can go on to the next discussion topic, which is you cannot do that because
I started there. God damn.
Illegal. Everyone, she's making illegal moves.
I'm just making my own rules.
So you told me you've met Kevin Hand, right?
Not in person, but we've.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we.
Okay. I was gonna ask, how is he in person?
Well, I've met him on. I mean, we Zoom.
But have you talked to one-on-one person?
We chat once a week.
Just you?
About just me and him.
Really?
Because he's my mentor. We have to chat once a week.
That's really cool.
Minimum. Usually it's about an hour, 2 hours. He is so kind. Like, he is one of the best human beings I've ever met. Mm-hmm. It's wild. I mean, I emailed him last year. Yeah, better than you. No, I don't know. I did. Okay. Not well, but I did.
It's all good.
I can't, I could talk for another 2 hours just about this man.
Give me a brief explanation of his personality. Is he quirky? Is he weird? Or is he a nice guy?
I think he's just the best way to describe him is compassionate. He just cares. I mean, he cares about aliens, obviously. He cares about the planet, obviously, but he cares about people a lot. So, I mean, he takes care of his people, is what I'll say. The first day that I joined the team, we did introduction. I've now got to see what.
Oh yeah, if you want, you can just resign and we can just start again. You could do that. That's the thing.
Okay, how do I do that?
Just shake hands.
That was just mean.
I completely forgot you could do that. But yeah, if you feel like you're losing, you just restart again.
Yeah, we're gonna shake hands every 2 minutes.
Good to know, guys. God.
Yeah, literally when I was first joining, I mean, I could give you 10,000 examples of things that he has said and done that I've been wow, you're just a good human being. But I think a great way to show off just how fantastic he is, the first day that I was joining, everyone was going down the line introducing themselves to me. And we got, people late into their careers, right? People, grad students, one undergrad student actually, who was still in his undergrad up until a few weeks ago when he graduated. And everybody's like, we're so excited to have you. I mean, they made me introduce myself and I was shitting my pants. Oh my God. Smart, bright individuals, and I get to work with them, and I'm so nervous right now.
I feel like that's literally everyone's emotions in that exact situation. That's literally everyone.
When he says, okay, why don't you introduce yourself? And I go, oh my God.
Voice crack.
With what? What's cool about me compared to you guys?
But yeah, so
they go down the line, they each introduce themselves. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them. 10 people on this team.
I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again.
Okay, so this is the move where I...
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I'll take this, and then you're a little advantage because you're...
Okay, and I go here.
That's all you. But you're not... My queen is still safe.
So I shouldn't go there.
This is... First of all, this is not... Oh my... Now you know.
Do you notice how up until now, every single time I set it up, I say, can you double check this?
I didn't even realize. So I looked.
Oh wait, so I should go here.
Yes, beautiful.
Okay.
Now you know. I'm just gonna go here.
Every single person down the line, all different points in their career. Every single person goes, you're in great hands. Like, Kevin is just, like, you're gonna learn so much.
Oh man, it's not a good move by me. Actually, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all?
Just look at where my queen is right now.
It's so tempting.
You can't take that.
Why not?
You can never take that.
Oh, I'd have to do it on the diagonal.
Yeah.
God.
I would have knew.
Yeah! 100%!
So let's get into a new topic about, you told me about, he's compassionate. That's great to hear. That's good. Maybe one day I'll meet him. Maybe he'll be on this one day. We'll see. We'll see.
He does podcasts. That's how I found out about him.
Yeah, well, I was trying to do research on him. It's very difficult to do research on him. I cannot find any of his projects he's currently working on.
Europa Lander mission, Mars 2020.
So I just went off the book. I just went off the book, and I was like, I'll make questions off that. And I know you very well, so it should be fine. And it's been going very well so far. I've enjoyed our talk. So let's get into the actual book. So you described to me that prior to obtaining the job, you had read The Emotions,
Yep.
The Search for Life in the Depths of Space by Kevin Hand. Alright, love for him. He's incredible. If you hear this, Kevin. It happens to be your team leader. As a fun question, were you able to discuss any topics about the book personally with him, though? Did you tell him that you were a big fan?
I did tell him that I was a big fan.
Did you say, I read your book and I loved every second of it?
I told him that I read the book, and I told him that it was incredibly inspiring as a young student and scientist.
And how did he respond?
I honestly don't even know if he reacted to that. It's my turn. I'm just thinking for a long time. Yeah, no, because that was an email, I think, when I first told him that I had read his book. And I think he just, like, brushed past that and responded to everything else that I said.
Another fan. It's so annoying.
I just was like, fuck off.
It's actually just a dick. Sorry, Kevin. Sorry. I didn't mean that.
I'm telling
Please
you.
Please come on here.
No, I mean, I told him that I read the book. Honestly, so a couple times. What?
Just take my... No, it's fine. You can take my queen. Take my queen.
How? With what?
Look at it. Just look at the board. We're just standing at the board. It's trying to say. The board is trying to say, you can take my fucking queen.
No, it's not!
Look at the bishop. Oh my. There you go. You will build chess intuition. In episode 2 with Shaila, it's going to be great.
Come back.
I expect to win by her. I'm going to come back right here so I don't lose my...
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so he's asked me, he's had to introduce me a couple times because he's on, we're both part of the Ocean Worlds Lab, and then we're also both part of the Europa Lander mission, and there's some overlap within those teams, but not all, so he's had to introduce me a couple times, and then also in the past month, multiple new interns have also joined the team, so we've had to reintroduce me a couple times, everyone a couple times.
Yeah.
And with every introduction, he kind of gives, I didn't have a super typical start to a NASA career, as in, usually you apply and you interview and then they give you an internship. And for me...
So how did you how did you find this internship anyway?
Listened to him on a podcast last year.
And he was like, come join me.
No, it took him a year. I listened to him on a podcast and it was quarantine and I was already in the habit of cold emailing scientists that I thought were doing cool work.
Yeah.
Anyone who I thought was doing something interesting, I emailed them and I said, hi, my name's Shaila, this is my interest, here's my experience, and this is what I think that you do is really cool, and I asked them a couple questions, and I would try to set up informational interviews, like, just talk to me about your work, because I was trying to scope out, like, what I wanted to do, and I had no idea. Are you trying to trick me with that one?
No, it's, right now, I've put very little thought into this game.
Okay, good. That's what I like to hear.
I've been playing nonchalant. We were playing nonchalant. Very much. You should have just moved this.
I thought so, but I wasn't sure because then I thought you were going to take it with your next one.
Why would I take it with my next
If
one?
I had moved my bishop here, would you not have taken it with
I
your
would,
pawn right there?
but you could move your bishop here or here. You could have moved it right here.
Oh, I should have moved it just in general.
Now you know. Now you know.
Yeah, I should have moved it.
The more you know.
Yeah, so I had emailed him as soon as I heard that podcast, and I was just like, hey, you do cool work. Can you talk to me about it? And he's a busy man, so he didn't answer. Then I followed up, and he was like, okay, yeah, let's set up a Skype call. And we did. He Skyped me for like an hour. He answered all my questions about just like science and microbiology and astrobiology and what it actually,
You Skyped?
I Skyped him last year. And just any questions that I had, classes to take, people to talk to, things to research, things to do on my own. He told me that I should like learn Python and take a class in geology and
That's
whatever.
why you learned Python.
That is exactly why I tried to learn Python.
What an influencer.
He really was. And so we kept in touch on and off, mainly just like he had mentioned a couple names that I should get to know. And throughout the year, there was like one or two of them that I emailed him and was like, hey, can you make an introduction between me and this person? And he did. He was very nice about it. They sometimes would answer. They didn't really lead anywhere. And then in January, I told them I'm applying for co-ops and job experiences. Do you have anything interesting? Or do you have any recommendations? And he didn't answer for a while. So I was like, yeah, I kind of gave up. And then finally, in like March, he was like, actually, I'm posting this internship. If you want it, if you're interested, apply and put my name in it. And they'll contact me. And I was like, okay. I did not expect them to give it to me at all. I mean, I was like, I don't actually know how.
I mean, you might as well try. You know?
Yeah, I put it in, obviously, but I was just like, I don't really expect anything out of this. So
How much anxiety do you get from like trying to apply to a job, like, and then like you get an answer, and then they say yes, and you're like, okay, now I have to like interview. Did you interviewed, right?
I didn't interview for this.
Oh, really?
Do you understand how unqualified I feel all the time for this job? I have no idea if they even touch my resume.
Dude, so many people are unqualified in the world. It doesn't matter.
I know, but I hate it.
Obviously, I hate the fact that happens. There's people in high positions. I mean, like, obviously, I'm gonna Trump, but I mean, I'm not saying I'm a Trump. I mean, I don't like Trump personally.
Did you already take my queen?
I'm not gonna get political.
Did you already take my queen?
But I'm pretty conservative. So.
Yeah, for sure. When did you take my queen?
We took our queens together. We bashed.
I don't remember that.
Okay, so let's actually talk about his book. Like I said, Alien Oceans: The Search for Life in Go to Space by Kevin Hand. Kevin Hand, that's him. Kevin Hand. So let's talk about your favorite chapter. The Octopus
with the Hammer.
Can you give a quick summary of?
Oh, I can
and
try.
explain why.
You've read it more recently than I have.
I did. I can try and add some details if you miss anything.
So, I mean, the basic concept of this is the role, the evolution of intelligence, the role of various factors that resulted in it.
It goes into like we got land and then we got ocean. Why did land come up with such a civilization as we see now compared to why did the oceans not?
It leads to a lot of interesting thought experiments.
It's very good.
In terms of like, oh my god, what was it? How dimensions, how your just mobility can affect what resources you really take advantage of. So if you can fly or if you can swim, you can move in 3 directions, right? You've got all this freedom. So if you're trying to find food or if you're trying to escape predators, you've got so much mobility. If you're on land,
we're 2D.
You gotta be resourceful.
Yeah.
So, when you look at what influenced us to develop such intelligence in order to survive, that's such a big one that I just never would have considered, which I thought
it really is a good
absolutely fascinating.
You can't escape just like that. At the same time, most biology that lives or resides in the oceans, I don't actually know a specific speed that they go to, but
What?
I'm just gonna take that. Let's.
Oh no! Can I undo that?
Yeah, sure. You can undo that. We'll give it a chance. Let's go.
Okay, well, so this was here, right?
Yeah.
I was really proud of that one too. I had a game plan on
At the same time, like, I'm trying to think or counter argue between 2D and 3D.
Well, I don't want to get caught up on that one.
Yeah, I guess let's keep going explaining what is the octopus and the hammer. And spoiler, sorry, ahead, just so you know. But it's worthy spoiler.
Well, first tell me what you liked about it.
So he goes into, it was my next question.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes into fire and metallurgy. Metallurgy, is that what you said?
I've never heard it out loud. I've only ever read it. So like,
yeah, I just thought of it. I was like, metallurgy.
I think that's right.
So yeah, it basically explains.
If I go here, will you also take it?
I can very much take it.
But will you take it?
I would. Why would I not?
Just to be nice.
Okay, do it and I won't take it.
No, I feel like you're lying to me.
But so yeah, he goes into fire and how our understanding of or manipulation of how metals work.
I can't take it from here. But then you're gonna take mine.
Yeah, and then you can take it again. You got 2 points.
Sure.
Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah, but then you're gonna take it with your knight.
Good job. Nice analysis. Yeah,
I already did that.
So he goes into fire and explaining how being able to create fire and being able to cook our own food allows us to use less of our energy, right? Use less of our energy to actually digest the food that we're eating. So raw meat, I could not ever think about eating raw meat. I don't think.
Could you imagine biting into a cow and just being like,
beautiful, delicious, no seasoning, delicious. I love it. But yeah, so imagine not eating with season. Oh God, the food must.
No salt at all. Freaking halophiles.
Halophiles.
Halophobes.
Halophobes. Oh my God, we got a new phobe in town. But yeah, so being able to use fire to cook our food, therefore lowering the amount of energy we take to digest our food. Therefore, giving more energy capacity for thinking. Mm-hmm. Basically,
you're so much more efficient at processing this energy and like just attaining energy from your diet that you free up space.
And due to this,
I knew it.
Yeah,
okay, it's fine.
Beautiful.
Ooh.
Okay. I dropped it. I'm gonna just go for it. But yeah, so.
Are you gonna take my knight if I put mine?
Yeah, I would obviously.
Okay.
Guys, come on. But yeah, so and then the idea of metallurgy, which is the manipulation of metal to be able to craft materials. So let's go back to history. We have the Bronze Age started first, right? Then it's the Iron Age.
You said go back to history and I froze.
Yeah, we're not history experts. We'll take our word for this, but so I think it's bronze. I think no. Bronze Age? Is it Bronze Age? So let's assume Bronze Age, okay? And I feel like there's something before BronzeAge. Wood. I guess wood.
I don't think wood age is a thing, though.
Being able to manipulate metallic properties, which after...
Is copper ever in there?
Copper, no, it's not.
Okay.
I know there's another one. It's not... There's Iron Age.
Iron is definitely...
And then Iron... I think Iron Age. Could be wrong, guys. Don't listen.
We'll fact check this later.
Yeah. Or you fact check us and then you call out. But yeah, so let's not go back to history, obviously we're wrong. But so being able to manipulate metal to create tools, therefore allowing us to build things and be creative in the sense. It's my turn?
Yeah.
Just take this, thank you.
Oh, I was really hoping you wouldn't.
And check. Oh yeah, you checked me. You checked me.
Boom,
okay.
Bitch. Boom.
I can't castle anymore? No, I can't. So yeah. And Do you think?
If I if I move here, your tank can then take me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. But it's a. I mean, yeah, you should save your pieces. So yeah, he goes into fire and metallurgy. Do you think there's any other variables to take into account as to why land animals were able to reign over ocean animals?
Land over ocean is an interesting concept that I haven't, or that I think less about. The thing that always gets me is the annihilation of dinosaurs, which is it sounds like such a childish thing to like be stuck upon because like it's dinosaurs, but the annihilation of dinosaurs is constantly what I think about because that completely changed the trajectory of humans. Like mammals wouldn't have taken over the planet if not for that alone. So our entire concept of just like what dominates Earth, obviously we do because of our intelligence, but like we define our intelligence by our ability to dominate Earth. So if that asteroid had never taken out the dinosaurs, if they had continued to rule, wouldn't they be in charge? Wouldn't they be the most intelligent?
But dinosaur is it my turn or your turn? It's
still mine. I'm just not.
So you can think and I will speak. So you're saying dinosaurs.
Well, I'm not specifically saying dinosaurs would have developed this intelligence, but I'm just thinking about what would happen what would you picture the Earth to look like if reptiles had maintained dominance rather than mammals?
I would look into the neural capacity of those actual animals compared to us. Obviously, like, there's a great deal of our minds are obviously greater than, I would say, most, maybe if not all, of all the animals that are based on Earth. Okay, I see. Like, you're putting two things. You're targeting. I could do the same.
Why not? That's karma.
That's karma. Guys, I'm sorry about this. Do you remember where you?
This was.
No, this was here. This is why you don't play chess. No way, this is here. Let's just play it like that.
We're playing from here.
We're playing from here, guys. Don't remember.
Actually, this is even what I want to get stuck on. Rather than, that is something that I like to think about often. What would happen if asteroids had never hit, if reptiles had maintained dominance?
To me personally, I don't know if like maybe evolution hit. Maybe they were able to increase their size of the brain, increase neuroplasticity.
But would they need to is the question.
Would they need to? Evolution, if we
develop intelligence as defense, defense and offense. Like agriculture developed because we stay put.
I always thought of it as I was just always jealous of other animals. The reptilians are able to get venom or something like this superpower that's able to fight off against something. But our biggest superpower is our intelligence.
The one that I always wanted was the ability to fly. That's one that did.
Be able to fly? I would teleport.
But hey, if you could fly, you have 3 dimensions to develop intelligence. You can only expend your energy on so many things. It's a lot.
Obviously you can glide through there.
We're all given a budget, though.
We're all given a budget, and we were given the best budget for intelligence. But at the end of the day, I think intelligence just beats all.
But so the whole purpose of this chapter is what are the things that lead to us evolving this intelligence, right? And one of the key roles is the ability to cook our food, right? We suddenly are using so much less energy to process and to attain energy from attain nutrients from whatever we're consuming, as opposed to having fire on land and either directly cooking meat on it or putting your food inside a clay pot and putting that over fire.
Sure.
Oh.
And then it gets into the topic of convergence and contingency of evolution, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I don't remember what about him.
I'm trying to. I was really hoping you would know. I was contingent. I'm pretty sure contingency is dependent on. Could be wrong here. Contingency is dependent. Honestly, let's not even get into this topic because I really, really could not.
Well, I'll connect it to Europa then.
Okay, go ahead.
So we think of cooking our food, fire on land. Why? Okay, but can I not do that now?
You can, but you just lost a rook compared to a bishop.
How would I have lost a bishop though?
You lost a rook.
Oh, and you lost a bishop.
Yeah. Go ahead. Good. Okay.
I still haven't. See, this is what I mean. I need to learn how to use my rooks because I just let them sit.
It's one of the most useful. But keep going. So
back. It seems kind of improbable, but like, what is the probability of humans figuring out how to cook with fire? Imagine on some ocean world, Europa, Enceladus, Titan, all these places that we may or may not have evidence for hydrothermal vents in these deep sea oceans. Those are sources of heat. You could easily, it's not a roasted chicken, but it's a poached alien meat form.
Check.
Where?
Keep going.
And it's still a more efficient way of consuming what?
Keep going.
But you're still gonna. Okay, but I guess it makes more sense to lose a knight than a bishop. Or than a rook.
I forgot that you could do this. Did I take this? See, going away from this tangent, I had three attacks on that square that you should have looked at. I had the horse, bishop, and the rook. You had two. That's why I won that battle.
Yeah.
Now you know?
No, I know.
So bringing it back to Europa.
Okay, so imagine, deep in this ocean, there's these, we're gonna, as much as I'm searching for microbes right now in the ice, who's to say, Europa's gravity is huge. Who's to say that there aren't giant sea creatures deep in this ocean? Why not? They've got plenty of space.
You won this game.
Are you sure about that?
You won because I made an illegal move.
An illegal move?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, can you explain to me how I won?
I moved, imagine this is black. I was here, and I moved here. Your bishop is pointing right, is pinning my horse. So you won this game.
Okay, yeah.
You won, everyone.
All right, baby!
Beautiful. Okay, so yeah, keep going. About Europa itself?
Yeah, so imagine we have this life form that manages to figure out that it can cook its meal over a hydrothermal vent using this heat source in order to cook its meat. It's suddenly so much more efficient at attaining this energy. Generations go by, we actually follow Darwinian evolution as opposed to Lamarckian. And
what is Lamarckian, by the way?
Lamarckian evolution it's usually what people first think of, where, let's say you think, my parents work out, so I'll grow up, their children will have muscles, right?
Okay.
A giraffe's reaches higher, so its child will have a longer neck.
It's like traits that come out during life, which obviously aren't traits that are passed on. Okay.
It's the easiest way. It's the first way people usually think about evolution, but it's not how it actually works.
Yeah, that's stupid people thought.
So let's assume that I did a better job of explaining this, that this European sea creature actually follows Darwinian evolution, and it evolves this intelligence over generations and generations and generations. Here's where I think it gets really fun. One, we define intelligence by human intelligence, which is very, very anthropocentric, which I've said is, not the way to conceptualize the universe. Granted, it's the only way we can conceptualize the universe. So then on top of that, I'm still going to start with the same way I always do.
Going to the Indian defense. I know it's not Indian. Don't listen to what I've said. So yeah, keep going.
If you think about human, not just intelligence, but human civilization, every aspect of our the way that we think, the way that we conceptualize the world, society, civilization, everything is very, very, every aspect of our thinking is dependent on, or not dependent, but contingent on our ability to see the sky. I mean, religion being the source of every aspect of what we count to, or what we call to be like intelligence currently. Like our understanding of math, our understanding of physics, our understanding of the earth, our understanding of our place in the universe, our understanding of the universe. Our understanding of language. I mean, all of these rely on our foundational, like our conception of what existence is, which relies on our ability to see the sky, to see the stars, to understand that we are small. Whatever's out there is bigger than us. Now imagine you are an intelligent life form in an ocean underneath a sheet of ice. All that exists is within that world of ice, and you are the biggest thing in there. That is just so wildly different.
That's like a whole new perspective to think about, which I honestly did not think about before I read the book.
How wildly different is that? Like, it's not even like, oh, we compare human intelligence to fish intelligence. Those aren't the same, which, I mean, even that is wildly different. But, like...
Fish intelligence to what side?
The fish is a bad example because they're already underwater, so it's already so different. But, you know, when people say, like, oh, dogs are intelligent because... we can communicate with them enough to, like, they show these emotions, whatever. We deem them as intelligent because they can show human characteristics or follow human commands, behavioral, whatever. Not even that is comparable to the intelligence that we would see in these life forms because they're just, every aspect of that existence is different. Even if there were to be, like, society, language, religion, that would be so different. And also...
oh, for sure.
Like language wouldn't. I mean, it's underwater.
Let's do a thought experiment of how would it work? A religion living underwater. What would you praise? What would you set as the hierarchy?
I mean, not some god in the sky. That's for sure, because you're covered in an ice sheet.
Would you just praise the higher up predator that just eats you? That's your god.
I mean, but so imagine then you're the higher up predator. Imagine you're the top of your food chain.
So you think you're a god?
Like, do you think so?
Huh? That's a great.
Or is it the water, right? Because that's what's around you.
Nice.
You proud of that one?
Yeah. Huh. That's a really good thought experiment. Trying to put
Isn't
yourself.
That wild though?
Like, how do you perceive? How being an animal underwater, and then if you have nothing that can eat you, you just think of yourself as a god.
Imagine if you were the biggest, like your whole perception of existence is between this layer of ice and this layer of rock.
What if
that's above and below you and the water in between, and you're the biggest thing in between?
What if you see the layer of ice as the heaven? Maybe they obviously they don't have the self-awareness.
But that's also a human idea of like heaven's above, hell's below.
Yeah, that's true, huh?
Because we look up at the stars.
Anthropocentric.
Because we look up at the stars, and that's bigger than us.
Mm-hmm. Damn.
That's farther than we are. Like how?
It's great putting yourself in the shoes of another animal and trying to think how they think. But the thing is, they're not as self-aware as us humans, you know, they wouldn't like.
I mean, we think that. Who's to say that they're not?
Yeah, they're just like.
Okay, so here's where the dinosaur comes into play with me, right? We think that it's weird for us to conceptualize anything being so much more intelligent than we are, and so much more advanced than we are. Regardless of where we are, we're 66 million years behind, right? Think about how exponentially quickly intelligence developed as soon as we started getting the ball rolling.
As soon as agriculture came to be, as just like staying in one spot and having the time to think,
a couple
just being creative.
Million years ago versus a couple thousand years ago to a couple hundred years ago, how quickly intelligence or our idea of intelligence progressed.
Do you think it's exponential? Like, do you think the industrial revolution has revolutionized, or not revolutionized, has evolved our intelligence? Do you think people are getting? I mean a lot of stupid people, and I'm stupid in some cases. I feel like I'm.
But it depends on your. I guess it's all subjective to your definition of
But,
intelligence.
Maybe we're evolving. Maybe this. It's a difficult question because there's a lot of variables that come into it.
I'm nowhere near a statistician. I barely passed my statistics class, and my main point is it's easier to conceptualize. Like, oh, if we find life, it'll probably be these like weird little microbes that aren't even close to what we think of as intelligent beings. But who's to say that humans are ahead? Like, who's to say that humans are ahead? Why would that be the case?
I mean, I think it's pretty empirical to say that everything we've built around us is pretty much it's like a show off that we are better than most species
on Earth.
On Earth, obviously, I'm specifically talking about Earth because there's been no other evidence that life has originated somewhere else. It's not a bad move, honestly. Now you're putting pressure on this, and I'm putting pressure on this. I'm gonna take this. Now you can take that one.
No, because then you're just gonna take mine with your pawns.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay. We're gonna make it interesting. I'm gonna take this. But you see, now I have 2 pawns that are on one row. It's not a good. It's not what you want.
Yeah, you can't do much of that.
You want to do a queen for queen?
No.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Why would I want to?
But yeah, so let's go back. Let's go into another portion of the actual chapter, which talks about or speculates about how could a civilization be adapted in a ocean world, right? So he talks about, for example, it doesn't have to be an octopus, but how, like you said, his reasoning is that he uses us as humans were able to adapt through agriculture, being able to cultivate our own food, therefore giving us or allocating our energy for other processes, which is thinking and being creative and doing more things and learning, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So his idea is that by using, hydrothermal vents through those vents, they're able to farm some sort or the food that they need to be, and through this farming, they're able to allocate more time for other things to occur. I don't really specifically remember how hydrothermal vent farming would occur. Would you know?
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know where I thought you were going with that. Hydrothermal vents, it would make sense to farm near them because 1, there's likely a lot of species that stay nearby, and 2, you're staying close to your source of being able to cook. Obviously we can settle down anywhere on Earth where there's likely things to grow, and then we can put our own fire there. In the case of an underwater environment, you would need to stay near your heat source. You can't just bring that wherever you want to go. And hydrothermal vents in general, at least on Earth, we see them teeming with life. This is where things, at least for me, get interesting because a lot of the speciation that we see on Earth is a result of different environments. The Earth or an ocean is a lot more, at least. Obviously, you're not going to end up with one type of species in all of the ocean. Not obviously. Most likely, you're not going to end up with one type of species in the entire ocean. But it's still, how much speciation are you going to see that there's one type of species that? Why did you do that?
Because you can take it.
Oh, okay. Is that when I said no, I don't want to do the queen for the queen, you still did it anyway?
Yeah. Why not? Go ahead.
Because I said I don't want you.
So, what were we talking about? Sorry. Completely lost track.
Oh, just here, what would an intelligent civilization look like under? I don't know. Yeah. It's so hard to conceptualize because there are so many things to consider, but that's what makes it so much fun. It is so much fun to think about.
It's a great thought experiment, honestly. Thought experiments are fun. Let's be honest. Please. But yeah, so It's actually, so let's go into another tangent. Let's talk about intelligence.
Wait.
Why?
Speaking of.
Are you intelligent enough to make a good move? Is that what you're trying to see?
Yeah. What are your thoughts from here to here?
Why would I give you my thoughts? It's not a bad thought because then I can move my rook here and then I would just check your queen, your king.
Right, so from here to here.
You could.
Okay.
This one. Actually, no. I would have moved this.
Why?
It's not a bad move. It's not bad.
Okay.
Actually, no. You could take it. I didn't. I completely missed that. But yeah. So let's talk about intelligence. Like I said.
In terms of biology or in terms of like
well,
imposter
first I
syndrome?
want to go on. I'd like to get into the foundation of something. So let's talk about. Give your own personal definition of what intelligence is. Is there like any factors to intelligence? And then I'll give my own, and then we'll get into it.
I mean, so mine will have very little biological basis and really a subjective opinion, but I think intelligence has a lot to do with self-awareness and awareness of the existence of reality as opposed to just moving to survive.
So okay.
Like, just being aware of, I don't know, I really, that's how I would cover it. Just self-awareness within your own world.
Okay.
Being aware of obviously individuality.
So you wouldn't consider artificial intelligence as intelligence?
Well, it depends on how.
Because artificial intelligence most likely will not. Or at the
By
moment,
nature, can it not be self-aware though?
I mean, I'm not an artificial intelligence expert, but from what I could tell, so artificial intelligence is just a bunch. From what I know, it's just a bunch of code that's been programmed by the person who created it that is able to perform tasks or willing tasks that the coder wants them to do. I've listened to a podcast saying that intelligence is all about adaptability, being able to adapt to any environment that is given or situation that is given.
Is that in a
check
biological context or a neurological context?
They were trying to say, from what I can remember, this is Lex Friedman. By the way, a lot of this podcast is influenced by Lex Friedman. Thank you, Lex. Great podcaster. We love listening to it. I'm gonna take this.
You didn't have to.
Oops. I got it again. But yeah, so he's saying adaptability in the sense that being able to put yourself in a new situation and then being able to think, since you're in this new situation, new variables arises, you're able to think through the processes that would put you in a better advantage that this environment has put you in.
Do you think that would have to do with proactivity and reactivity?
Proactivity and reactivity. Describe those two words.
Like I would say, like taking an active role versus just responding to your environment.
Okay.
Or do you think that that has nothing to do with intelligence?
So reactivity is saying like you take the intuition part. So intuition just takes the decision out of it, and you don't actually think about it. Rather than that's activity, rather than proactivity is thinking about it and then making the best decision out of it.
I guess.
So you're saying that people who are intuitive are.
No, I don't even know what point I was trying to make or where I was trying to lead with that. I was just curious.
Let me give you my definition of intelligence. So
okay.
I've pondered about this a lot, and very much like when I like doing it when I smoke by myself. So I get stupid. But yeah, so intelligence, I see factors that come with intelligence. So we have the first factor. We have knowledge. We have the amount of knowledge that you can retain in your head. You have...
What? What?
Nothing. I really don't know what to move. That's okay. Whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, you have knowledge, being able to retain a certain amount of information in whatever system that you live in. So as humans, the amount of knowledge that we can retain in our brains, which most animals are used to, which is their brains. Also is the processing speed, how fast you can process a situation that is developing in front of you, and how fast you can actually think to be able to respond in a smart way. I had a third one. Those are the main two that I would think about.
For both of those, though, do you think that you're born with a certain capacity?
That's the thing. That's why I see through. Oh, and also being able, the ability to learn.
Okay.
Capacity, but at the same time, I do think you are built or born with a certain amount of intelligence. What I kind of deem sad, because I value intelligence very highly. Because, I mean, I will say I have a very egocentric battle within myself about intelligence, and I do want to seem very smart around people. And
my biggest fear is coming across as stupid.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. Is it your turn or my turn?
It's yours.
And so, that's why I'm gonna be honest. I am afraid to take an IQ test because I'm afraid to see. I mean, obviously, IQ doesn't showcase, because there's IQ and EQ, right? IQ is what are the definitions for?
I don't know.
From what I'm
intelligence
quotient and emotional quotient.
Oh, I know.
I think, but emotional quotient, from what I know, self-awareness is more self-aware. This is all about self-awareness, being able to be attached to your emotion. Did you move?
No, I didn't. I don't really see any good moves from here.
While intellectual or intelligent is, I want to be the best of both worlds. I always try and build myself up and learn more, to understand more, to critically think, which is a very good skill to learn. But yeah, that's my idea, is that there's that adaptability, be able to learn how much you can process, or how fast you can process, and how much you can process, the amount of knowledge you can retain. There's probably something I'm missing at the moment. I cannot think of it. So, therefore, my intelligence is lacking. But, yeah. So, alright, this is where great questions coming. So, in our human perspective, is my turn?
It is.
Okay. I will play after this question. In our human perspective, we usually deem love as the most purposeful meaning of our life. But when we think of simple life, such as a unicellular prokaryote, the meaning or feeling of love seems to diminish, since the perception of life is drastically different due to the simplification. Do you think that the feeling of love was based on evolutionary prowess for us humans and other primates of our time, or was it inevitably going to occur within a life form?
When you speak of love, are you specifically speaking about romantic love?
No, I'm thinking as in, this is my reasoning as to why love is evolutionarily a useful thing to occur.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
because you want to be, so basically, life is about survival of the fittest. You want to be able to live as long as possible. Mm-hmm. So being able to create a band and create a group of family that you can rely upon, which is based on love and loving one another, that the loyalty comes to part, and you're willing to sacrifice each other and help each other through the worst times. And I do believe that love does attain that sense of purpose for an evolutionary.
So, yeah, oh my god, yeah. Social groups are absolutely, I mean, in our case, at the very least, evolutionarily beneficial. I mean, you can talk about packs of wolves, you can talk about the altruistic behavior of bees, you can talk about social hierarchies where there are, like, groups with multiple males, multiple females, social gatherings where you, cleaning as a social activity, eating as a social activity, protection as a social activity, like,
mm-hmm.
across species on Earth, especially across those that we think are of higher
Check.
intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to stop whenever you get weird about or confused about what I'm doing.
Yes, I do.
Keep going.
Is it?
It's not bad.
Yeah, but is it doing anything for me? Like, what's the point of that? It's not helping.
Yeah, keep going with what you were trying to say.
Love is, absolutely evolutionarily beneficial. Be it for protection, be it for the sharing of resources, altruistic behavior. It just makes sense. Specifically, romantic love in the case of primates, in the case of humans, monogamy is beneficial.
Why is it beneficial? Wouldn't you think that polygamy is better if you're able to create more offspring?
It depends on how much energy you're going to expend producing offspring. There's some animals where they create a lot of offspring over the course of their lifetime, so it helps to have multiple different partners. For humans specifically, it takes a lot of energy. It takes you 9 months and an abundance of pain to create one child. Whereas,
or two,
or 2 or 3 or 5, or whatever. But it's still like you're most likely going to spend a lot of time and energy. And then not only, it's not just about the gestational period and how long you're actually carrying that pregnancy to term, but it's also how much time you spend after that. There are alligators, or I forgot if it's alligators, what animals that lots of reptiles will produce their offspring and then leave it. It's gone. The mother's role is done. The child is born and it's done. Humans don't do that. Primates don't do that. You care for your offspring for the rest of...
Check.
in the human's case, for the rest of its life.
Yep. There are two places you can go. Nope.
Why are you talking?
So yeah, what are you saying about primates and compared
We
to...
care for our young up until their adulthood. We carry them to adulthood. It makes sense to have that family tie. If you're not going to be taking care of that child or the... If you're not going to be taking care of that child for the remainder of its life, maybe it makes more sense to have multiple partners. There are some birds actually that will have multiple partners and will trick trick a father into thinking that it had sired an offspring, so it'll have a fake dad. So that
the father is able to take care of the offspring.
Yeah, just to do that. It helps beneficially. It increases your genomic pool. You've got more biodiversity. You're a lot more stronger immune systems. There's so many great reasons for it. But then on top of that, you still get that parental figure who's not actually part of your social group.
Okay.
So yes, long story short, love in all forms is an evolutionary benefit for humans. But not all species have the same relationships with, not all species will benefit equally from a social dynamic similar to that which we see in humans.
Do you think that love is inevitably going to converge in a species?
I think on any world you will see groups with strong social ties, and you will see species that don't have strong social ties.
You said alligator, right?
Yeah. So, those are some that don't have strong familial ties. Wolves have strong social ties with the pack. I don't know what to do now.
So good. We can play another.
Why, are you about to win? Do you see yourself winning this one?
I'm pretty close.
Honestly, is this rook providing any protection right now from anything? What is it blocking?
Really. You can just move it. This is what I'm targeting you with. Okay. Like that wasn't the best. But the thing is, you can take my rook.
Right now?
Yeah, with your king.
And then...
Your king.
Well, your pawn can't do anything.
Yeah, chill. You're chill. No. What the fuck are you doing?
What am I doing?
This rook. God, guys. The number
wasn't a queen.
Only listener. Look at her go. Look at her go.
Why would you do that? No, I don't. No. Oh, I do know. Oh, I don't like that.
I hope you've learned some valuable lessons playing chess today.
Will I take them with me? Who's to say?
I don't know.
Will I remember that they hurt? Yes.
Yes, for sure. All right, let's. Did you like that question?
I did.
I was really proud of that one.
I like that one.
Guys, I was proud of that one. So I have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
We're running low on battery. So let's talk about CRISPR.
Oh no. Okay.
I'm assuming you know.
I know. Yes, I do know what CRISPR is.
If for whoever is listening, the one and only, CRISPR is a technology that, if correct me if I'm wrong, it's able to take a specific, I guess, part of the genome, through a bacteria that's able to. I don't specifically know. This is all biology and not my expertise. But a bacteria is able to pick out a specific part of the genome and being able to implement that specific part of that genome, which has a specific trait that you want, and being able to place it in an organism after.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Beautiful. And being able to, I don't know what it was.
I was hoping you would just forget.
So yeah, being able to, whatever. So being able to take some part of that genome and applying it.
Can I take this out? Oh, I don't want to though.
Being able to take that part of the genome, apply it, certain trait, like for example, bioluminescence, being able to apply it. And so my question is, so if we're thinking about like colonizing different planets.
I don't want to do anything.
It's okay. You're pretty much gone. You're pretty much gone. So being able, what are your thoughts on colonizing planets and being able? You want, so when you colonize a planet, right? If you go to Mars, for example.
Are you speaking specifically about terraforming and
No.
Okay.
I'll get to the question. So, if we're looking into colonizing planets, starting with Mars, of course, because that's the number one spot we're looking for. Elon Musk, all he's trying to do. Do you think it's necessary to apply this technology? Like, do you think it's necessary to start using CRISPR to, I guess, artificially evolve our species to adapt to Mars or a specific planet? Like, do you think it's necessary? I think.
Ooh.
You like it? You like it?
Well, I hadn't thought about this, but now that I do,
I think it's necessary, no?
So specifically with Mars, it's your turn. One thing that we think about a lot is that Mars inhabitants would likely, at a certain point in history, we think that maybe Mars did look like Earth. Maybe there was oceans the way that we see them, life the way that we see it, and plant vegetation the way that we see, but at this point it's not. The water that may exist on Mars is all in the form of very salty brines, which, we drink fresh water, we rely on fresh water.
We do have technology to be able to desalinize, but that takes a lot.
We do. It takes a lot, and you can adjust the water, or you can adjust the thing living there. We do have access to halophilic genomes. We do have access to, so halophiles you can be salt-loving or you can be salt-tolerant. So salt-loving organisms will rely on salt. They have a salt-in method of living, essentially, with these extremely salty environments where they incorporate inorganic salts into their...
It's over, I'm sorry. It's over.
I can't go anywhere?
No, you can kill. Just kill.
Wow.
Take it. Just end it. And it's checkmate. Okay, let's play one really quick game. This is the last game.
Okay.
And let's discuss this topic that I just asked you, and we'll call it the end of the night.
Okay, perfect.
And I have one more question to ask you.
So what I was saying, halophiles that employ the salt-in technique use inorganic salts within their system. They basically rely on salt in a positive way. Then there's also halotolerant organisms that can exist in salty environments, but they don't prefer it. Or not that they don't prefer it. They've been genetically built to utilize that, but they just employ different methods, usually some type of transport system, where salt isn't like a benefit. Salt isn't used in their systems. They maintain a non-salty environment within their systems. Regardless of which of those you're really focusing on, we know of organisms on Earth. That are able to tolerate or really thrive in these salty environments. So why not take advantage of those genomes? Why not really test the biology of it?
Okay, just keep going. As you were saying?
Yeah, why rely on the fact that we can adapt an environment when we can adapt an organism? It's not super necessary. Or who's to say it's necessary?
To adapt as a restate your.
It's a lot harder, in my opinion, to change a whole planet. I mean, you can always. God damn. Is this in peril?
Yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah, it actually is. It very much is.
Would it? Oh, no, that wouldn't help.
No, it's actually not.
But doing the castling wouldn't help.
You can't castle because then you just check yourself.
Yeah, that would be
it's
not
possible.
ideal. That would be
so you're saying there's the environmental and then there's the organism that is creating.
Does that work?
That's one.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not saying one is inherently better than the other, and I definitely don't know enough to say that one is inherently better than the other, but it is absolutely within human possibility to use organisms that we know that would love a Martian environment to adapt our own genomes. These are accepting genes from, usually CRISPR works better when you're working with more comparable genomes, and taking halophiles to a humans would be like absolutely wild, but it's still a possibility, and terraforming another planet is so difficult.
Is there so we all know like the Mars atmosphere at the moment, it's uninhabitable due to it has no magnetic field occurring because the crust is not like that of Earth. Therefore, the radiation due to Earth, the solar radiation, completely takes away any life that's able to form. Do you know any life form that's able to withstand solar radiation? Because solar radiation creates mutations, therefore, I guess it promotes genetic versatility. But like at the end of the day, at some point when you mutate, you can develop cancer, like any organism is able to. So
there's none that I know of. I don't know. I think most people at this point are not set on finding extant life on Mars. They're focused on finding evidence of extinct life that once existed, and then the idea of creating a habitable environment on Mars kind of relies on either having some type of habitat system, like having an actual like hub where people will remain indoors and you can't really exit without an immense amount of solar protection, or creating an atmosphere using something like MOXIE, which is part of the.
What is that?
It's an instrument that they just sent on the Mars 2020 rover, where they were able to generate oxygen in the Martian atmosphere. I forget what the chemical reaction was within the instrument, but it was really cool, and I think you would find it interesting. So I would 10 out of 10 recommend for you specifically.
What would you think is like perfect traits that we should be able, if we think about living on Mars right now, it's very cold. It's very cold. Because at the moment when we're trying to colonize Mars, you just moved there, right?
Yeah.
We're thinking of like going underground. And I don't think that's a viable situation to put humans in, because psychologically, I think, let's be honest, we would want to...
I mean, psychologically, having no access to like sunlight is horrible. But then also, if you think about it specifically in terms of like isolation, if you're moving to Mars, you're already. I don't know. I feel like that's so far down the line in terms of like what's.
I mean, is it? I mean, Elon Musk is getting pretty close to sending in 2024. He's sending a team there, I'm pretty sure, and he said himself that some people will die.
Yeah, I'm sure he's excited, or he's okay with that.
I think it's inevitable. I mean, that comes with. I mean, I guess that goes into another existential question of. That goes into another existential question of doing experiments on people. Like, yes, it's very terrible, but is it very necessary for our learning process? Or, I mean, obviously it's not necessary because it could be done some other way, or it could be done. It will just be done slower.
It'll be done slower, I think. And I mean, it's not gonna.
But are we trying to raise someone into learning?
Experimenting on someone is an interesting word, as opposed to finding someone who's willing to test the waters.
Yeah.
Can this?
Yeah, you can
take that.
I'll just eat real quick.
Aww. That's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where's my horsey man? Oh, you already took it.
Yeah, he's gone. So yeah.
Bitch!
So do you have anything else to add upon that actual thought experiment?
At least to that, I think it's less about us deciding that we're going to risk some people, and more about who wants to be brave enough to be a pioneer. Like that's really what it is. It's about finding.
I think it's passion. We're willing to die for something that's such a great cause.
That's what it takes. That's what exploration is. That's what pioneering is. Personally, no, not even so.
Me too. I think there's too much to do on this earth to leave it down. Maybe if I was 80. If I was like, I'm gonna die soon, this is gonna be a wonderful. It's like the most. I peak when I'm as old.
As much as I want to contribute to humanity, I really have more joy and interest in life, my own life. I mean, it's a selfish thing. There's people who I don't mind how selfish that can be, because I think I do plenty for that. That's not for me.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's.
There's people who live to do that. Who live to all they want to do is something meaningful and important for the human race, and I'm not one of them. I want to find my own personal joys.
Yes, I agree. It's like we said, it's the personality that you're born with. So and it's inevitable that you're born with the personality, and you can't. I mean, do you think it's possible that you can change who you are? Obviously change as that goes on. But do you think there's a fundamental personality that always sticks with you? Like, for example, I have a bit of a anger issue that comes with life sometimes, and I get mad at myself for a situation. And it's been occurring since I was a child, and I've gotten better, but it's always been there by accident.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say you can work on it, but it's inevitably always going to be like just creeping in your personality.
I kind of think about this twofold. One, I haven't made enough of a conscious effort to adjust any part of who I am, what I am, etc. Or at least regularly to say that, like, yeah, I have. On the other hand, I used to be a very, very negative person. Like, my favorite activity was complaining. That was how I bonded with people. That was the only way I made social connections. That was just my approach to the world, was just to find things to complain about. And I think I heavily altered that, but I also think that came, or at least even if that didn't come as a result of me growing up.
Actually, I was going to take that. That's exactly why I was.
Yeah, you're planning for that? I don't know. I think that's less a fact. I mean, that was while I was growing up. That was while I was getting older.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I can credit that to me really making a personal change or if that's just what was bound to happen. I don't know. I don't have enough personal anecdotal evidence of deciding that there was going to be a change that happened and making it happen.
So that actually brings me up to my last question for the night. And I like for all my podcasts, for every episode, I would like to let the guests who came on be able to answer this. So, there's always something that you wish to do in your lifetime, right? But you either push it off or felt a sense of fear for any infinite amount of internal conflicts that you've had. For me, it was starting this podcast. I've always wanted to start a podcast because like I said, I enjoy conversing. It's fun. I like to learn more about people and learn knowledge and critically think and understand the world that I perceive because I'm human. And we're curious people, curious animals. So after tonight, after I've officially started my podcast after this episode, what is something that you will let fear go away and just finally take action and do something that you have always wanted to do?
How tangible do you want this to be?
This doesn't have to be. It has to be an experience that you've been always wanting to take, but you've never had.
Because not my go-to, but my instinct is to answer is that I want to do something that I deem like rest of my life type of thing. Like, like work towards a career or a partnership or a friendship that I think is forever. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that really answers your question though, because I don't know, I feel like everything that I do is prep work. Like I'm studying to get into a career. I'm meeting people to like find people that I want to be with or want to be my friends for the rest of my life.
You can't do that.
Why not?
You're pinned.
Where am I? My phone. You're blocking me then.
Yeah, you eat, I check you. It's impossible.
Oh.
Do my vision.
I don't know if that really answers your question. Something more tangible?
Something like an action, something you're passionate about that you've always been scared of doing,
I want to build a skill. Like, I feel like I don't have...
A skill?
Yeah, I don't have...
A chess skill.
Exactly. No, this is one of them. I mean, I keep telling myself that I'll practice and I'll do it, and I keep not doing it. I just, watch tutorials or think about doing it and not actually doing it because I can't get myself to dedicate time to it.
Yeah, I mean...
But I can dedicate my time to thinking about doing it.
I watched there's a guy called Originated on YouTube that he just shows professionals, chess masters playing.
Do you feel like you learn from watching it, or do you feel like
I do learn because they're way better than me, obviously. Yeah. But you played, right?
Yeah.
Check. They're way better than me, and you definitely learn. And I mean, I just enjoy watching chess because I find YouTube very boring now. It's really boring. There's really not much to. It's not much to do, and obviously there's a lot to watch, but I don't have the time or patience to actually try and find something to watch. So, yeah, just take it. So have you answered my question of what the tangible experience that you want to actually do? Just play really quick.
I mean, I guess I want to build at least one skill as a 21-year-old. be it, I hope it's chess.
It's chess, you think?
I hope it is. I don't know. I told myself that I would do a lot of things. I told myself that I would learn to code at least one language. I told myself that I would read more, that I would actually figure out my taste in beer, that I would actually understand chemistry, and all these things I just keep thinking about doing.
What gets what gets in your way?
As soon as it gets past like here's the introduction to it, I'm like, this is too hard. Which I think every human has had that. But I want to get past that for at least one thing, and I keep not doing it.
Do you just not allocate your time properly? Check. Oops, sorry.
Can I kill that?
No, you cannot.
Why not?
Look at my other.
Okay, well then I will run away like another. Oh,
that's not.
This way?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll check again.
4.
Check.
Mm-hmm. Oh, goddamn. Okay.
Check. You could have eaten my bishop just now.
I could have?
Yeah. Okay, you know what?
Okay, can I take this now?
Yeah, but you should have just took this. You cannot.
Why not?
Look at my. Not bad. Ooh, no. Check. Actually, checkmate. You're gone. You game. So that will end the podcast for the night. We got a little silent then because we were concentrating on the chess game. But thank you for honestly joining me. This was really fun.
Oh my gosh, this was a time and a half.
This is really fun. I fucking love conversing. Playing chess, like 2 of my favorite things to do. I mean, I really got into chess in the past, 5 months. I watched Queen's Gambit and I was like, fuck, that shit's lit. But once again, it got into my ego because I was like, chess seems like an intelligent thing to play, so let's play. But I got into it and it was fun. But thank you, Shaila, for joining me. This was very interesting.
A splendid time.
Very much. Thank you very much. I hope one day we have a second part together.
Part 2 where I win more than once.
Oh, for sure. And you don't win by a legal move by me. Thank you for joining me, and I hope we see each other again on this.
Hello, welcome to the outro. I am doing this to thank you guys for watching and listening. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I put a lot of hours and dedication into my first episode, and as I've said, thank you again. Second, I'd like to apologize for the legal mistakes that were made in the game during the whole podcast, such as the illegal castling, the wrongly positioned chessboard at the beginning of the game, and when black or white would play twice in a row. That was my mistake and I own up to it, but luckily I've thought of some contingencies that could get rid of these errors for future episodes. And third, I would like to ask my audience some questions to really improve the quality of the podcast. First one being if I should leave the episode naturally, so we keep in the pauses and the pauses of us talking and not playing in the episode, or if I should edit those moments where we're not playing and we're not talking to shorten the episodes because the podcast is already long, and I am leaning more on the latter option because I feel like it's more intriguing for the audience and doesn't waste as much of their time. Second, I'd like to know if I should keep the chess analysis board on the right side. Just wondering if just the board itself or the physical board where we play is good enough, or the chess analysis is just a nice thing or a nice addition to have to augment the experience of the podcast. And third, I'd like to know if I should do some chess variations for future episodes, such as having a blitz game, multiple blitz games, multiple bullet games, and having some timed games. So, for example, do like 3 bullet games, 3 blitz games, and like 3 timed games, so I have an idea of how long the episode can be. And also making me, the host, which is me, and the guest interact with the chessboard a little bit faster than just like having these random spurs of playing quickly and then or spurs where we just take 5 minutes to either talk and not play at all. So yeah, just let me know, give me some feedback about that and any other way that can improve the podcast, such as improving the audio or the video. Any quality issue that you think could really enhance the experience for the audience. I got some new mics, so I should be able to get some better audio. I know the audio was a little bit janky, but thankfully my good friend Alex was able to offer me some of his mics, and I'm very grateful to be able to use them for later episodes, and that should increase the audio quality from now on for episode 4, because episode 2 and 3 have already been recorded. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, let me know these feedback answers. I would gratefully appreciate them. Thank you, and have a nice day.